There's a scene in the very last episode of Regular Show where Pops Maillard, this gentle, innocent, lollipop-headed man who spent 8 seasons being the kindest soul on television, wraps his arms around his evil twin brother. Auntie Pops, voiced by Robert Englund, the guy who played Freddy Krueger, is thrashing, snarling, trying to destroy the entire universe. And Pops just holds him. He doesn't fight back. He doesn't throw a punch. He hugs him. And then he flies them both directly into the sun. And the universe doesn't end because of a hug. On a Cartoon Network show about 2 guys who work at a park, on January 16th, 2017, the last frame of that episode was Pops watching a tape in what we can only assume is heaven, and the screen reads Regular Show. And Pops looks at the camera and says, "Jolly good show," and that was it. That was the end. Okay, let me back up. Let me explain how we got here, because tonight, we're not just talking about the finale. We're going through all of it. 100 Regular Show Easter eggs, 100 hidden details, buried references, secret production stories, and blink and you miss it moments that most people never caught. We're talking about the stuff tucked into the backgrounds, the voice casting choices that are basically inside jokes, the 80s references that go so deep you'd need a film degree, and a VHS collection to catch them. The connections between episodes that don't make sense until you've watched the whole series twice. The callbacks to J.G. Quintel's college films that are literally hiding in plain sight. All of it. So if you're watching this late at night, get comfortable. Seriously, pull the blanket up. Adjust your pillow. Turn the brightness down if you need to. We're going to be here for a long time. And honestly, that's the point. This is one of those videos where if you fall asleep halfway through, that's fine. I'll still be here when you wake up. And if you haven't subscribed yet, it really does help us keep making these for you. Every single one of these deep dives takes an absurd amount of research and rewatching, and knowing you're out there makes it worth it. Alright, let's go. Here's the thing I keep coming back to with Regular Show. There are 2 shows running simultaneously. There's the surface level show, the one your younger cousin watched. The one with the funny raccoon and the blue jay who slack off and things explode. And then there's the other show, the one underneath. The one that's about growing up and losing people, and the fact that you can't stay 23 forever. And the Easter eggs in Regular Show live in both of those layers. Some of them are jokes. Some of them are genuine production secrets. Some of them are emotional gut punches hiding in background details. And tonight, I want to trace both of those threads. The light and the dark. The comedy and the tragedy. Because that duality is what makes this show what it is. That's the structure of Regular Show itself. Mundane on the surface, cosmic underneath. A show about mowing lawns that ends in space. So let's start where everything starts. Not with the first episode, with the thing that came before it. Easter egg number 1. The show's entire existence is an Easter egg, and I mean that literally. Regular Show was born from a student film called 2 in the AM PM that J.G. Quintel made at the California Institute of the Arts in 2006. The premise? 2 guys working a late-night shift at an AM/PM gas station eat candy that turns out to be laced with acid. That's the film. 2 dudes trip on LSD during a graveyard shift, and during the hallucination, one of them transforms into a blue jay. Another transforms into a gumball machine. If you've never seen this short, go look it up. It's floating around online, because the blue jay is Mordecai. The gumball machine is Benson. The entire origin of Regular Show is a drug trip. A Cartoon Network show watched by millions of children started as an animated acid hallucination made by a college kid from Hanford, California. And here's the part that gets me. Quintel and his buddy Sam Marine, who would go on to voice Benson, Pops, and Muscle Man, they voiced the characters in that original short. And when the show got picked up years later, Quintel kept those exact voices. Mordecai sounds the way he does, because that's how Quintel talks. Benson sounds the way he does because that's how Marine played the gumball machine during a fake acid trip in a student film. The DNA of the entire show is right there, hidden in a 6-minute animatic from CalArts. Number 2. Pops didn't come from Regular Show either. A year before 2 in the AM PM, Quintel made another student film called The Naive Man from Lollyland, which he completed in 2005. It aired as part of the Nicktoons Film Festival, and it won 2 awards, the Producer's Choice and the Student Animator Award. The short features an early version of Pops, this sweet, naive lollipop man from a magical place called Lollyland. And here's the thing. In the Regular Show finale, when the show reveals Pops' true origin, that he's actually a cosmic being called Mega Kranis from Lollyland. They're not just making up new lore. They're connecting the show back to a student film Quintel made over a decade earlier. Lollyland was always real. It was real before regular show even existed. And in the 3-part finale, the inhabitants of Lollyland, these characters called Frivola Kranus, Quadravi Kranus, and Weird Mushroom Guy, are all literally earlier drawings of Pops from Quintel's student days. They animated his old sketches into the show's finale. If that doesn't make you feel something about the circular nature of creative work, I don't know what will. Number 3. This one's about the recording process, and it's actually huge for understanding why regular show sounds the way it does. Most animated shows record their voice actors separately. Each actor goes into the booth alone, reads their lines to a microphone, and the editor stitches it all together in post. Regular show didn't do that. The cast recorded their lines together, in group sessions, all in the same room at the same time. Quintel, Salyers, Marin, all of them, performing their scenes live with each other. And you can hear it. Go back and listen to any conversation between Mordecai and Rigby. The timing is natural. They talk over each other. They react in real time. There's a looseness to the dialogue that you can't fake with individual recordings. That's not an accident. That's a deliberate production choice that gives the show its conversational warmth. And it's the kind of detail that separates regular show from shows that sound like actors reading scripts. Number 4. Skips has 5 fingers. Every other character in the show has 4. In animation, 4 fingers is the standard. It's cheaper to draw, it's cleaner, and it's been the convention since the early days of cartoons. But Skips breaks that rule. He has 5 fingers on each hand. And here's where it gets interesting. On The Simpsons, only God and Jesus have 5 fingers. Quintel grew up watching The Simpsons. It was one of his favorite shows. So some fans believe that Skips having 5 fingers is a deliberate nod to that convention, a subtle way of signaling that Skips isn't like the other characters. He's immortal. He's been alive for centuries. He's closer to a god than a groundskeeper. And the show communicates that through the number of fingers on his hands. That's the kind of detail that rewards obsessive frame-by-frame viewing. And it's exactly the kind of thing I live for. Number 5. Speaking of Skips, his name is actually a massive Easter egg in itself. His real name isn't Skips, it's Walks. We learn this in the episode Skip's Story, which is Season 5, Episode 22, one of the most emotionally devastating half hours the show ever produced. In it, we learn that Skips was a young man named Walks who fell in love with a woman named Desdemona. She was killed saving his life during a battle with a villain named Clorgbane. In his grief, Walks made a vow to always skip instead of walk, as a way of honoring her memory. That's why he skips everywhere. It's not a quirk, it's a memorial. Every single time Skips bounces across the screen in every single episode of the show, he's mourning the love of his life. And the show never makes a big deal out of it. It's just there, buried in the way he moves. I've watched this show probably 3 times through now, and that detail still wrecks me. Number 6 is the Garrett Bobby Ferguson situation. And this one is genuinely wild because it left the screen and entered a courtroom. In Season 2, Episode 7, High Score, which aired on February 7th, 2011, Mordecai and Rigby try to beat the all-time high score on an arcade game. The current record holder is a giant floating bearded head named Garrett Bobby Ferguson, GBF for short. Now, GBF is an obvious parody of Billy Mitchell, the real-life arcade champion famous for holding the world record on Donkey Kong and Pac-Man. Mitchell became a public figure after the 2007 documentary The King of Kong, where he was portrayed in a pretty unflattering light. The regular show version takes it further. GBF is a literal floating head who cheats at video games and eventually explodes. And here's the Easter egg behind the Easter egg. Billy Mitchell actually sued Cartoon Network for using his likeness without permission. The case went to court, and the court threw it out, ruling that GBF was a clear parody. The character is a floating head that explodes. No reasonable person could confuse that with a real human being. A Cartoon Network cartoon went to court over a video game reference. That happened. I want to linger on the CalArts connection for another moment, because it explains something crucial about regular show's creative DNA. CalArts, the California Institute of the Arts, has produced an almost absurd number of influential animators. Quintel was there at the same time as Pendleton Ward, who created Adventure Time. They were in overlapping circles. And CalArts had this culture of collaboration and experimentation that shows up in everything its graduates make. The tradition Quintel and his classmates followed involved throwing title names into a hat, drawing them out at midnight, and then racing to create a complete animated short in 48 hours. That's where 2 in the AM PM came from. That culture of improvisation, of speed, of trusting your instincts, that's embedded in Regular Show's DNA. The show feels spontaneous, even when it's carefully planned, because Quintel learned to create in an environment that valued spontaneity. The production methodology at CalArts became the artistic philosophy of the show, and you can feel it in every episode. The escalations feel improvisational. The dialogue feels off the cuff. The tangents feel genuinely tangential. It's all designed, of course, but the design philosophy comes from a place that valued genuine creative chaos. And that's an Easter egg in the purest sense. The show's origin story isn't hidden in a background detail. It's hidden in the way the whole thing feels. And actually, here's something about Sam Marin's path that I find really interesting. After CalArts, Marin didn't go straight to Regular Show. He went to Walt Disney Animation Studios and worked as an animator for 3 years. 3 years at Disney. That's where he learned craft, discipline, the technical fundamentals of bringing characters to life. And then he left to join his college friend's weird cartoon about a park. That career choice, leaving the biggest animation studio in the world to voice a gumball machine and a green dude with a mullet, tells you everything about what Quintel was building. He wasn't making a generic Cartoon Network show. He was making something his Disney-trained friend believed in enough to leave Disney for. That's a hell of an endorsement. And it paid off, obviously. But the risk was real. And the fact that Marin took it, that he bet on Quintel's vision, is part of why the show exists the way it does. Number 7. The in-show video games are all references to real retro arcade games, and they're incredibly specific. Broken Bones, the game Mordecai and Rigby play, is a direct reference to Excitebike, the 1985 Nintendo game. The graphics, the gameplay, the way your character wipes out after a bad jump, it's all pulled from the NES original. Dig Champs is a reference to Dig Dug, the 1982 arcade classic. These aren't lazy nods. The animators actually recreated the visual style of those specific games. They got the pixel art right. They got the color palettes right. For a kids show in 2010, that level of retro gaming accuracy wasn't required. But Quintel and his team cared about this stuff. They were making a show for people who grew up in the 80s, or for kids who would eventually look this stuff up and say, wait, that's a real game? I need to take a tangent here, because something just occurred to me, and I think it's important. The retro gaming references in Regular Show aren't just fun callbacks for adult viewers. They're doing world-building work. In the world of Regular Show, Mordecai and Rigby play 8-bit and 16-bit games. They watch movies on VHS and Laserdisc. They listen to music on cassette tapes. The technology in their world is permanently stuck in the 80s and early 90s. There are computers, sure. There's some modern tech. But the default consumer technology that the characters interact with daily is retro, and the show never explains why. It just presents a world where VHS is still a thing, and arcades are still busy. That's world building through technology choice. The show creates an alternate present where the cultural clock stopped at 1989. And by doing that, it creates a world that feels both familiar and displaced. You recognize the technology, but you know it doesn't belong in 2010. And that temporal displacement is the show's secret weapon. It makes the world feel dreamlike, slightly unreal, like a memory of a place rather than a place itself, which is perfect for a show that people watch while falling asleep. Regular Show's world is a dream world, not because it's surreal, although it is, but because it's made of the material of memory. And that brings me to something I've been thinking about a lot while putting this together: the dual nature of Regular Show's audience. Quintel built a show that works on 2 completely different frequencies. For kids, it's a funny cartoon about a blue jay and a raccoon who get into crazy situations. For adults, it's a love letter to 80s culture packed with references that only someone over 30 would fully appreciate. And the Easter eggs serve both audiences. A kid laughs at the funny arcade game. An adult recognizes Excitebike. Both of them enjoy the episode. That's masterful design. That's not an accident. Number 8. The name Two Peaks Mall. It shows up as a location in the show, and it's a reference to Twin Pines Mall from Back to the Future. But they swapped pines for peaks. 2 mountains instead of 2 trees. It's the kind of thing where if you catch it, you catch it. And if you don't, it just sounds like a normal mall name. Regular Show is packed with these. Locations, character names, background signs, all of them nodding to something else without ever drawing attention to themselves. Number 9. Weekend at Benson's, Season 3, Episode 12. The entire episode is a riff on the 1989 movie Weekend at Bernie's. In the movie, two guys have to pretend their dead boss is still alive by carrying his body around. In the Regular Show version, Mordecai and Rigby accidentally knock Benson unconscious and have to puppet his limp body through a social situation to help him impress his neighbor Audrey. The episode plays out beat for beat like the film. The title is the reference. The premise is the reference. But here's the part that kills me. The one that gets me every time. At the end of the episode, after all the ridiculous chaos, Benson actually ends up getting Audrey's phone number. He's unconscious the entire time, and his social life improves. That's the joke. Benson's life gets better when he's literally not trying. Think about that for a second. For a character whose entire arc is about trying too hard and caring too much, that's devastating. Number 10. The Mississippi Queen hallucination sequence. In that same episode, Weekend at Benson's, when the characters drink from a bottle called Mississippi Queen, the 1970 hit song Mississippi Queen by Mountain starts playing during the hallucination. This is one of those moments where Regular Show's 80s and beyond music obsession shows its hand. Quintel has talked about how the music licensing process worked. The staff would record animatics using copyrighted songs, temp tracks basically, and then they'd try to actually license those songs for the final cut. When they could get the license, the results were magic. And Mississippi Queen playing during a hallucination sequence in a cartoon is exactly that kind of magic. Number 11. I need to talk about The Power, the very first episode, Season 1, Episode 1, which aired on September 6th, 2010. This episode pulled 2.10 million viewers, which for a new Cartoon Network show was significant. But the Easter egg here is in the musical number. Mordecai and Rigby find a magical keyboard and they sing, "Don't look at our crotches while we synchronize our watches." That line became one of the most quoted moments in the entire series. It's silly, it's absurd, and it tells you everything you need to know about the show's sense of humor in 12 words. But here's what most people don't know. Quintel has said this is his favorite episode of the entire series. Not because it's the best, because it's the truest to the original vision. The magical keyboard, the escalation, Rigby stealing it from a wizard who was relieving himself in a bush. That's the pure distilled essence of Regular Show. Mundane setup, insane payoff, no explanation needed. Okay, I need to slow down for a second because I realize I've been running through these and I haven't stopped to talk about the thing that makes these Easter eggs matter. It's the craftsmanship. Any show can throw in a reference. You can name a character after a movie and call it a day. What Regular Show does differently is it layers its references into the thematic fabric of the episode. The Weekend at Bernie's parody isn't just a parody. It's about Benson's loneliness. The Billy Mitchell reference isn't just a joke. It's about the absurdity of competitive gaming culture. The 80s music isn't just nostalgia. It's an emotional vocabulary. And that's the thread I keep pulling on. Every Easter egg in this show is doing double duty. Surface level fun, deeper level meaning. And I should mention something here about the way the show handles musical references, because it's going to keep coming up. Quintel grew up in Hanford, California, this flat agricultural town in the San Joaquin Valley, and he's talked about how the 80s left a massive positive influence on him. The music, the movies, the technology. Regular Show doesn't use 80s culture as decoration. It uses it as a first language. When the show reaches for an emotional moment, it reaches for a synth track. When it wants you to feel nostalgia, it puts a VHS tape in someone's hand. When it wants you to feel triumph, it plays a power ballad. The 80s aren't references in Regular Show. They're the emotional operating system. And every single song choice, every movie nod, every piece of retro tech is a deliberate decision to communicate feeling through cultural artifact. That's not pastiche. That's art direction. I've been rewatching specific episodes for this video, by the way. 6-7 times each for some of them. And the thing that keeps striking me is how much I missed the first time around. There are details in the background art, in the sound design, in the way characters are framed in a shot that I never noticed until watch number 4 or 5. This show rewards patience. It rewards the people who pause and zoom in, and that's rare. Most cartoons give you everything on the surface. Regular Show buries its best material. Number 12. Ello Governor, Season 2, Episode 1, aired November 29th, 2010. Rigby watches a horror movie about a possessed British taxi and becomes so terrified he can't sleep. The British taxi in the film is a parody of Christine, Stephen King's killer car. But the episode goes deeper than that. The taxi is specifically modeled after an Austin LTI FX4, the classic London taxi. And the whole premise of the movie within the show, a cab possessed by the vengeful spirit of its dead driver, that's straight out of both Christine and The Car, a lesser-known 1977 horror film. Rigby's fear response to the movie is played both for laughs and with genuine empathy. The episode acknowledges that irrational fear is real, even when the thing you're afraid of is a cartoon taxi. And here's the detail that gets overlooked. The resolution involves Mordecai forcing Rigby to watch The Making of Ello Governor over and over until he's desensitized. They make him watch behind-the-scenes footage to break the illusion. That's actually a real therapeutic technique for dealing with media-induced anxiety. A Cartoon Network show about a haunted taxi accidentally taught kids a coping mechanism. Number 13. Prank Callers, Season 1, Episode 9, aired November 1st, 2010. Mordecai and Rigby try to prank call someone called the Master Prank Caller and get transported back to 1982. Now, the Master Prank Caller is a sentient 80s cell phone, which is already absurd. But the voice actor underneath the phone armor is Tim Curry. Yes, that Tim Curry. The guy from Rocky Horror Picture Show, from IT, from Clue. They got Tim Curry to voice a prank-calling cell phone villain, and the episode just casually moves past it. No fanfare, no wink at the camera. Tim Curry is just there, being incredible, inside a phone suit, in a children's cartoon. If that's not an Easter egg for adult viewers, I don't know what is. Number 14. And since we're talking about voice casting as Easter eggs, this is something Regular Show did consistently and with incredible precision. Robert Englund, the guy who played Freddy Krueger in the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, voices Auntie Pops, the show's final villain. That's already a great casting choice. Horror icon voices the ultimate evil in a cartoon. But here's the layer underneath. Auntie Pops' first episode is called The Dream Warrior. That's the subtitle of A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. They named his debut episode after one of England's most famous films. It's a nested reference. The voice actor is the reference, and the episode title is a reference to the reference. That's the kind of obsessive attention to detail that makes Regular Show what it is. Number 15. Mark Hamill voices Skips. Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker, the Joker, one of the most iconic voice actors in the history of animation. And he voices the immortal Yeti, who does maintenance at a park. Hamill's voice gives Skips this weight, this gravitas that the character wouldn't have otherwise. When Skips tells you something matters, you believe him, because Luke Skywalker is telling you. That casting choice isn't just star power, it's emotional engineering. Number 16. Sam Marin voices 3 main characters, Benson, Pops, and Muscle Man. 3 completely different characters. A stressed-out gumball machine manager, a naive, gentle lollipop man, a crude, bombastic green dude with a mullet, and they're all the same person. Marin was Quintel's friend from CalArts. They were in the same class. Marin helped Quintel on his student films, then went and worked at Walt Disney Animation Studios as an animator for 3 years before Regular Show got greenlit, at which point he came back to Cartoon Network. The fact that Marin can switch between Benson's screaming frustration, Pops' childlike delight, and Muscle Man's crude bravado, sometimes within the same scene, is genuinely one of the most impressive voice acting feats in modern animation. And the Easter egg here is that most casual viewers have no idea it's the same person. They think it's 3 different actors. That's how good he is. Number 17. The Eggcellent hat is based on a real challenge. In Season 3, Episode 17, Eggcellent, which won an Emmy Award for Outstanding Short Format Animated Program in 2012, Rigby ends up in a coma after trying to eat a 12-egg omelet to win a trucker cap that says, "I'm Eggcellent." That food challenge is based on a real eating challenge from a restaurant in California. Quintel and the writers didn't make it up. They took a real greasy spoon dare and turned it into an episode that parodies Indiana Jones and won an Emmy. I keep thinking about the chain of events there. A real restaurant, a real eating challenge, a cartoon about a raccoon in a coma, an Indiana Jones parody, an Emmy. That's the regular show pipeline. I want to stay with Eggcellent for a bit longer because I think it represents something important about how regular show earned its reputation. This episode won the Emmy. Out of everything the show did, the Television Academy looked at this episode, a story about a raccoon eating eggs, falling into a coma, and his best friend completing an Indiana Jones trial to win him a hat, and they said, "That's the best short-format animated program this year." And I think they were right. Not because the premise is brilliant, although it is, but because the execution is flawless. The emotional stakes are real. Rigby is in a coma. Mordecai is genuinely afraid his best friend might die. The comedy doesn't undermine the drama. They coexist. They amplify each other. And the Indiana Jones sequence at the end isn't just a fun reference. It's a test. Mordecai has to prove his friendship is real by making the right choice under pressure. The hat doesn't matter. The omelet doesn't matter. What matters is that Mordecai showed up. He could have walked away. He could have said, "This is stupid," but he didn't. He went through the trial because Rigby wanted that stupid hat. And that's love. That's the kind of love the show is always talking about. Expressed through absurdity, but real underneath. Number 18. The climax of Eggcellent, the specific Indiana Jones homage, is a direct homage to Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. When Mordecai completes the food challenge, he's teleported into a chamber full of trucker hats. An aged knight, the Eggcellent Knight, tells him he must choose the correct hat. If he chooses poorly, he dies. The Eggcellent Knight is visually based on the Grail Knight from the movie. The room full of hats mirrors the room full of goblets. The choose wisely moment is beat for beat the same, and the whole thing is played completely straight. The show doesn't wink. It doesn't say, "Hey, this is an Indiana Jones reference." It just does it. And if you've seen Last Crusade, you're in on the joke. If you haven't, it's still a tense, funny, weird scene in a cartoon. Both audiences served. Number 19. It's Time, Season 2, Episode 2, aired January 3rd, 2011. This is one of the darkest episodes in the entire series, and most people don't talk about it enough. Mordecai gets jealous because Rigby starts flirting with Margaret. In the resulting escalation, Mordecai and Rigby end up riding a microwave through a time vortex. Rigby taunts Mordecai and shoves him. Mordecai shoves Rigby back, and Rigby falls off the microwave and disintegrates. He dies. Mordecai kills Rigby, his best friend, in the second episode of the second season. Obviously, Father Time reverses everything, and the episode resets. But that moment exists. The show committed to it. You see it happen. And Mordecai's face afterward. The horror. The immediate regret. That's not played for comedy. That's a children's cartoon showing you what happens when jealousy and anger get out of control. It's buried inside a silly time travel episode, but the emotional core is deadly serious. And that's the dual track I keep coming back to. The show is always doing this. Light on top, dark underneath. Funny and devastating at the same time. The Easter eggs live in both layers. Number 20. Death Punchies. Season 1, Episode 4. Rigby gets tired of losing at a game called Punchies and decides to learn martial arts from a place called Death Kwon Do. The montage where Rigby trains is set to You're the Best by Joe Esposito, which is the iconic training montage song from The Karate Kid. That's a direct, deliberate 80s reference. But here's the thing about how regular show uses 80s music. It's not just needle drops for nostalgia. The music becomes the emotional language of the show. When You're the Best plays, it's telling you this is a training montage, yes. But it's also telling you this is the kind of show that believes training montages should still exist. It's earnest. It's unironic. Regular show uses the 80s the way the 80s used itself, with total commitment and zero cynicism. Number 21. I want to talk about Dawn, Season 1, Episode 10. This is the episode where we meet Rigby's younger brother, Don. And the Easter egg here is structural, the way the episode reveals Rigby's insecurity. Don is everything Rigby isn't. He's accomplished. He's an accountant. He drives a Corvette. He owns a house. And despite being the younger brother, everyone assumes he's the older one. The birthday flashback, where 6-year-old Rigby watches Don steal all his friends at his own party. That's the core of Rigby's character in a single scene. And here's the hidden detail. Don admires Rigby. He gets his haircut to look like Rigby's. He doesn't wear clothes because Rigby doesn't wear clothes. Don's whole identity is built around trying to be like his older brother. And Rigby has no idea. The irony is devastating. The person Rigby resents most is the person who admires him most. That's not just a cartoon plot. That's a real thing that happens between siblings. And Regular Show buried it in a Season 1 episode and then built Rigby's entire character arc around it. Let me talk about something that's been bugging me. And I mean that in the best possible way. Like a splinter you can't get out of your brain. The way Regular Show treats its male characters' emotions is genuinely revolutionary for a show of its era. Mordecai cries multiple times on screen without it being played as a joke. Rigby is vulnerable. He admits when he's scared. Muscle Man, the most stereotypically macho character, is openly emotional about his father's death, his relationship with Starla, his friendships. Benson has anxiety attacks that the show takes seriously, and none of this is framed as weakness. The show never punishes these characters for having feelings. In fact, the episodes where they try to suppress their emotions are the ones where things go the most wrong. Regular Show is quietly one of the most emotionally literate depictions of male friendship and male vulnerability in any medium. And it's disguised as a cartoon about a blue jay and a raccoon punching each other. I think about this a lot. I think about how many kids watched this show and absorbed the message that it's okay to feel things, to say you're hurt, to cry in front of your friends. And I think that matters more than any Easter egg on this list. Number 22, A Bunch of Baby Ducks. Season 2, Episode 23, aired June 6th, 2011. Mordecai and Rigby find baby ducks in a fountain, and the ducks imprint on Rigby, copying everything he does. This seems like a standalone joke episode, but the baby ducks come back. They return in Season 4, and again in Season 6, growing up alongside the show. In A Bunch of Full-Grown Geese, the now-grown ducks fuse with Mordecai and Rigby into a giant fighting robot duck. This is Regular Show at its most anime. But the Easter egg is the continuity. The show remembers these ducks. It tracks their growth across seasons. In a show that's mostly episodic, the baby ducks are a through line that rewards long-term viewers. If you've been watching since Season 2, seeing those ducks grow up means something. If you just tuned in for the robot duck fight, it's still awesome. Both audiences. Number 23. More Smarter. Season 2, Episode 24. This episode is where we first learn that Rigby doesn't have a high school diploma. Mordecai teases him about it, and Rigby drinks a chemical to make himself smarter, which leads to both of them becoming hyper-intelligent and eventually so smart they start phasing out of reality. The Easter egg here is the seed it plants. This one throwaway detail, Rigby dropped out of high school, becomes one of the most important character details in the entire series. It pays off years later in the Eileen Plan and Rigby's graduation day special at the end of Season 7. The show planted the seed in Season 2 and harvested it in Season 7. That's 5 seasons of setup for one emotional payoff. That's not something you do by accident. That's long-form storytelling, hiding inside what looks like a joke of the week cartoon. Number 24. The Last Laserdisc Player. Season 4, Episode 30. Mordecai and Rigby want to watch the director's cut of a movie, but need to find a Laserdisc player. If you don't know what a Laserdisc is, that's kind of the point. Laserdiscs were this bizarre, oversized home video format from the 80s and 90s. They were like giant shiny records that played movies. They were a stepping stone between VHS and DVD. And Regular Show dedicated an entire episode to them. This is what I mean when I say the show uses 80s tech as emotional vocabulary. A Laserdisc player isn't just a prop. It's a symbol of obsolescence, of things that were cutting edge once and are now forgotten. And in a show about growing up and letting go, that symbolism is doing a lot of work. Number 25. The Summertime Song. In This Is My Jam, Season 2, Episode 13, Mordecai and Rigby find a cassette tape while cleaning gutters. It plays a song called Summertime, Loving in the Summer, Time, by a fictional band called Solid Bold. The song is performed by Sean Sealis, one of the show's storyboard artists. This is an in-house Easter egg. The crew made the song themselves. It's intentionally cheesy, this unbearably catchy soft rock summer jam, and the joke is that Rigby can't get it out of his head. It literally becomes a sentient entity that terrorizes them. But here's the meta layer. The song is designed to be an earworm for the actual viewer too. If you watch this episode, you remember that song. It's stuck in your head right now. The show made you the victim of the same joke it's playing on Rigby. That's brilliant interactive storytelling. I'm going to pause here because I want to acknowledge something. We're 25 Easter eggs in, and I've been jumping between production details, animation secrets, and thematic analysis. And I think that's actually the right way to approach Regular Show, because the show itself works on all those levels simultaneously. It's not a show that separates its comedy from its drama, its references from its original ideas, its surface from its depth. Everything is happening at once, and the Easter eggs reflect that. Alright, let me recalibrate for a second, because I want to make sure I'm giving the listener something to anchor to after that run of thematic analysis. If you're lying in bed right now, or on the couch, or in your car, or wherever you listen to these, I want you to know that we're about a quarter of the way through, and I haven't even gotten to some of the best ones yet. The deeper we go, the weirder it gets. And the weirder it gets, the more you realize how intentional everything about this show was. I also want to circle back to something I mentioned at the beginning. The idea that Regular Show runs on 2 tracks simultaneously. The light track and the dark track. The comedy and the tragedy. We've been ping-ponging between those tracks all night. And I think that's the right approach, because the show itself ping-pongs between them constantly. One scene is a joke about a magic keyboard. The next scene is about the fear of growing old. One episode is a Weekend at Bernie's parody. The next is about a failed musician managing a park. And the show never signals which track you're on. You just have to feel it. The tone shifts are unannounced. The emotional register changes without warning. And that keeps you engaged, because you never quite know what's coming next. Is this going to be a joke or a gut punch? The answer, more often than not, is both. And I think that's what makes Regular Show feel so alive, even after all these years. It doesn't pick a lane. It exists in the space between lanes, in the ambiguity, in the place where laughter and sadness overlap. Number 26. Wrap It Up, Season 3, Episode 9, aired November 21st, 2011. A rap group called Crew Crew insults Pops and his poems, so Mordecai, Rigby, and Pops challenge them to a rap battle. The voice of Blitz Comet, one of the Crew members, is Tyler the Creator. In 2011, Tyler the Creator was one of the biggest names in hip-hop. Odd Future was everywhere. And Regular Show just casually put him in an episode as a cartoon rapper who gets beaten by an elderly lollipop man. The casting is the reference. Getting Tyler the Creator to voice a character and then having him lose to Pops is the joke. And it works because the show plays it completely straight. Nobody breaks character. Nobody acknowledges the cameo. It's an Easter egg for music fans, and everyone else just enjoys the rap battle. Number 27. Benson's drumming backstory is one of the show's most carefully hidden emotional cores. We get pieces of it across multiple episodes, but the big one is 150 Piece Kit, Season 4, Episode 5. In this episode, Benson reveals that he was the drummer for a hit rock band called Heir to the Throne. He performed a legendary drum solo on a 150-piece kit that became famous, and then the band fired him. They kicked him out after only 6 months and replaced him with a drum machine called the Drumatron 6. They took credit for his work. They erased his contribution, and Benson has been managing a park ever since. Think about that. The angriest character on the show, the guy who screams at Mordecai and Rigby every episode, was a virtuoso musician whose dream was stolen from him. His anger isn't random. It comes from somewhere. And the show buries that origin story in a Season 4 episode and never hits you over the head with it. You have to be paying attention. And here's the kicker. The drum solo Benson plays feels like a love letter to classic rock drumming. The whole sequence is animated with so much detail and passion that you can tell someone on the team genuinely cared about getting it right. They gave a gumball machine a virtuoso drum solo. That's respect. Number 28. In Peeps, Season 2, Episode 4, aired January 17th, 2011, Benson installs a surveillance system called Peeps to monitor Mordecai and Rigby's work habits. The system escalates from cameras to a full panopticon, a single all-seeing eye that watches everything. The name Peeps and the visual design of the eye creature is a reference to George Orwell's 1984, where Big Brother watches everything. But it's also a commentary on surveillance culture that was eerily prescient for 2011. Benson's desire to control his employees through surveillance is played for comedy, but the underlying anxiety about being watched all the time, that's a real thing that's only gotten more relevant since the episode aired. Regular Show buried a surveillance state metaphor inside a cartoon about a creepy eyeball, and it works on both levels. Number 29. Rigby's Body, Season 1, Episode 11, aired November 15th, 2010. Rigby eats so much junk food that his body literally separates from him and walks away. The body just gets up and leaves. And here's the reference most people miss. There's a moment in the episode where Mordecai eats a hot dog inside a Twinkie with cheese spray. That's a direct reference to the Twinkie Wiener Sandwich from the 1989 movie UHF, starring Weird Al Yankovic. It's a deep cut. You'd have to have seen UHF to catch it. And that's the beauty of Regular Show's reference game. They're not just pulling from the big obvious 80s movies. They're pulling from the cult classics, the weird ones, the ones that only the real ones remember. And since I brought up Muscle Man's catchphrase, let me dig into running gags a little more, because Regular Show has a complicated and deliberate relationship with repetition. The "my mom" jokes, Benson threatening to fire people, Skip's knowing the answer to every supernatural problem, Mordecai's inability to talk to women he likes, Pops' innocent misunderstanding of common situations. These gags repeat across the entire series. And on the surface, they're just reliable comedy beats. You know they're coming. You know what to expect. But across 8 seasons, the repetition does something else. It creates rhythms, patterns. The gags become the show's heartbeat. And when the show breaks from those patterns, when Benson doesn't threaten to fire anyone, when Muscle Man doesn't make a "my mom" joke, when Mordecai actually manages to talk to Margaret without fumbling, the absence is noticeable. The break in the pattern signals that something has changed, that this episode is different, that something is at stake. Regular Show uses its own running gags as a baseline from which it measures emotional deviation. The gags are the normal. The breaks are the story. And that's an incredibly sophisticated use of comedy structure, hiding inside what looks like lazy repetition. And on the topic of patterns, I want to point out that the show's episode-to-episode structure is itself a kind of hidden pattern. Each episode begins with Mordecai and Rigby being assigned a task or encountering a situation. They try to take a shortcut. The shortcut backfires. Things escalate. They have to fix it. The episode resolves. This happens, with variations, in virtually every episode. And that predictability is a feature. It's a comfort. For a show designed to help people fall asleep, the structural predictability is a lullaby. You know where you are. You know where you're going. The surprises live inside the structure, not in spite of it. And that's the trick of the format. The container is predictable. The contents are wild. You get the safety of knowing the shape of the story and the excitement of not knowing the specifics. That's why Regular Show works as sleep content. The structure soothes you. The content stimulates you just enough to stay interesting without jolting you awake. Number 30. The Terror Tales of the Park series. Starting in Season 3, Regular Show did an annual Halloween special called Terror Tales of the Park. They made 6 of them across Seasons 3 through 8. Each one is a horror anthology where the characters tell scary stories. The structure is based on the classic horror anthology format going back to shows like Tales from the Crypt and The Twilight Zone. but the specific movie parodies within each segment are incredibly detailed. The first Terror Tales includes a story about a doll that draws on people's faces, which is a riff on Chucky from Child's Play. Another segment parodies The Exorcist. Terror Tales 2 features a story where characters age rapidly on a party bus, which is a time horror concept that goes all the way back to classic Twilight Zone episodes. Each Halloween special is essentially a mini film festival of horror references, and the show made 6 of them. That's 6 years of increasingly elaborate horror parodies hiding inside a kid's cartoon. Number 31. The Best VHS in the World, Season 3, Episode 34, aired July 30th, 2012. Mordecai and Rigby need to return an overdue VHS tape. The whole episode revolves around the physical object of a VHS cassette. In 2012, VHS was already a dead format. Streaming was becoming the norm, and Regular Show made an entire episode about the urgency of returning a physical rental. The Easter egg here is cultural. The show is preserving the experience of video rental culture, the anxiety of late fees, the physical act of holding a movie in your hands. For viewers who grew up with Blockbuster and local video stores, this episode is a time capsule. For younger viewers, it's anthropology, and Regular Show treats it with total sincerity, like this is a quest of genuine importance, because for Mordecai and Rigby, it is. Number 32. Ham boning. In the very first episode, The Power, Rigby tries to convince Mordecai that they should use ham boning, this body percussion technique where you slap your arms and legs to create rhythms, to get a raise from Benson. Mordecai says no, but at the climax of the episode, Rigby uses ham boning to distract a monster long enough for Skips to get free. The joke is set up and paid off within 11 minutes. But ham boning itself is a real thing. It has roots in African and African American performance traditions. It's a legitimate art form. And Regular Show takes it seriously within the world of the show. Rigby genuinely believes ham boning can save your life, and the episode proves him right. The fact that a real historical performance tradition becomes a recurring plot device in a Cartoon Network cartoon is the kind of thing that makes me love this show more every time I think about it. Number 33. Caffeinated Concert Tickets, Season 1, Episode 3. This episode was banned in the Middle East and North Africa region and censored in multiple countries. Why? Because there's a scene where a coffee bean character squirts coffee from his nipples into Mordecai and Rigby's mouths. That is a real scene that was animated, voice acted, approved by Cartoon Network's Standards and Practices Department, and broadcast on children's television. In the UK, they cut it. In Latin America, they modified it. But in the United States, it aired uncut. Regular Show consistently pushed the boundaries of what a TV PG cartoon could get away with, and the censorship history of the show is an Easter egg in itself. Different countries got different versions of the same episodes. If you watched Regular Show in the UK, you saw a fundamentally different show than someone who watched it in the US. Number 34. The Fist Pump Concert in Caffeinated Concert Tickets. The concert Mordecai and Rigby are trying to get tickets to features a band called Fist Pump, and their commercial says they're ready to rock your 11-year-old pants off. In the UK version, pants was changed to jeans, because in British English, pants means underwear, not trousers. This is the kind of localization detail that fascinates me. The show's humor was so culturally specific that it had to be retranslated for different English-speaking countries. That's a level of nuance you don't usually see in animation localization. And I think the Horror Tales episodes also reveal something about Quintel's creative ambitions that's worth acknowledging. Each segment is a different genre exercise. Body horror, psychological thriller, monster movie, home invasion. The show used these Halloween specials as a sandbox for trying things it couldn't normally do. The art style shifts. The color palette darkens. The pacing changes. Characters die, sometimes graphically. These episodes are Regular Show's permission to go places the regular format couldn't. And the quality of the horror parodies improved year over year. By Terror Tales 5, the show was producing genuinely unsettling content. Not just funny, scary stuff, but actually creepy material that played on real fears. Isolation, loss of identity, powerlessness. The Halloween specials tracked the show's growing confidence. The first one was playing with horror. The last one was committing to it. And each one served as a showcase for the animation team's range and a proving ground for tonal experimentation that would eventually inform the final season's darker, more emotionally complex approach. I keep thinking about something Quintel said in an interview about how the show's writers would pitch stories by essentially describing the escalation. The pitch wasn't, here's a story about friendship. The pitch was, Mordecai and Rigby have to return a DVD, and it summons a demonic late fee collector. The emotional core, the friendship part, was always present, always assumed, but it wasn't the pitch. The pitch was the spectacle, and then the writers would find the emotion inside the spectacle during the storyboarding process. That production methodology, spectacle first, emotion discovered during execution, is why the show's emotional moments feel so organic. They weren't planned from the top down. They were found from the bottom up. The writers knew the feelings were there. They just let the storyboard artists find them naturally. And that process, trusting the artist to discover the emotional content rather than dictating it from a script, is fundamentally different from how most animated shows work. It's more like jazz. You know the key. You know the tempo. But the melody is improvised. Number 35. The show's connection to Cartoon Network's golden age. Regular Show premiered on September 6th, 2010, the exact same year as Adventure Time. These two shows, along with The Amazing World of Gumball, basically defined what people now call the Cartoon Network Renaissance. The Easter egg here is institutional. Quintel worked with Pendleton Ward, the creator of Adventure Time, at CalArts. They were in overlapping creative circles, and the shows they created ended up airing on the same network, in the same time block, becoming two pillars of the same cultural moment. When you watch Regular Show, you're watching one half of a creative renaissance. The other half is Adventure Time, and the fact that both shows came from the same art school, the same generation of animators, the same Cartoon Network development pipeline, that's not a coincidence. That's a generation of artists who grew up on the same cartoons, studied at the same school, and then reinvented the medium together. You know what's funny? Every time I sit down to write about Regular Show, I think I'm going to be clinical about it, detached, analytical, and every single time, I end up writing about how the show makes me feel. Because that's what the show does. It bypasses your critical brain and goes straight for the emotional center. You think you're watching a cartoon about chair setup going wrong, and suddenly you're thinking about your own relationship with responsibility. You think you're watching a parody of Weekend at Bernie's, and suddenly you're thinking about loneliness. The show is a Trojan horse. The comedy is the horse. The emotion is the army inside. And by the time you realize what's happening, it's already inside the gates. That's not just good television. That's strategic emotional engineering. And Quintel did it 244 times without anyone calling him on it until the show was already over. I also want to point out something about the show's visual design that doesn't get enough attention. Regular Show uses a relatively simple art style. The characters are clean. The backgrounds are watercolor influenced. The animation is fluid, but not overly detailed. This simplicity is a choice. It means the show can move fast without losing clarity. You always know where every character is, what they're doing, what they're feeling. And when the show does decide to go visually complex, during escalation sequences or action scenes, the contrast is stunning. The simple baseline makes the spectacular moments pop. It's the same principle as the show's emotional design. Simple surface, complex interior. The art style is the show's philosophy made visible. Number 36. Thomas the Russian Spy. This is one of the longest-running Easter eggs in the entire show. Thomas is introduced in Exit 9B, the Season 4 premiere, which aired October 1st, 2012. He seems like a simple intern character. Boring. Background filler. But over the next 2 seasons, if you're really paying attention, there are tiny hints that something is off about Thomas. In Thomas Fights Back, he demonstrates skills that seem out of character, like fooling people with pre-recorded phone calls and being suspiciously good at going unnoticed. Then in The Real Thomas, Season 6, Episode 9, the show drops the bomb. Thomas is a Russian spy. His real name isn't even Thomas. The mom he was talking to in earlier episodes was actually a Russian intelligence ministry called MOMM, the Ministry of Mental Management. The show foreshadowed this twist across multiple seasons. Go back and rewatch Thomas episodes with that knowledge. Every awkward moment, every suspicious behavior, every too convenient coincidence, it all adds up. The showrunners planned this reveal from the beginning and buried the clues in plain sight. Number 37. Exit 9B itself is a massive Easter egg dump. It's a half-hour special where every single villain from the first 3 seasons comes back. All of them. In one episode. The episode was watched by 3.047 million viewers. A significant jump for the show. And the reason all the villains return is because the son of Garrett Bobby Ferguson, the Billy Mitchell parody from High Score, is seeking revenge. So the show's funniest reference, the video game parody, becomes the catalyst for the show's biggest action spectacle. That's the kind of long game storytelling that makes rewatching regular show so rewarding. A joke from Season 2 becomes the plot engine for a Season 4 event episode. Number 38. Benson's name. Most people don't think twice about it, but consider this. Benson is a gumball machine. His design comes from 2 in the AM PM, where a character transforms into a gumball machine during an acid trip. The name Benson itself sounds generic. Workplace manager boring, which is the joke. He looks absurd, but has the most normal name possible. But there's a theory in the fan community that the name is a reference to Benson, the 1979 to 1986 TV sitcom about a butler who works his way up to lieutenant governor. Both Bensons are middle management guys trying to hold things together in a chaotic workplace. Whether Quintel intended the reference or not, the parallel is there. And that's the thing about Easter eggs in a show this reference dense. Sometimes the references find themselves. Number 39. High Five Ghost's shadow. This is a purely visual Easter egg that most people never catch. High Five Ghost is a ghost. Ghosts shouldn't have shadows. But in many episodes, High Five Ghost has a visible shadow, while other characters don't. It's inconsistent. Sometimes he has one, sometimes he doesn't. Some fans believe it's a deliberate choice to signify that High Five Ghost isn't a typical ghost. He's corporeal enough to work at a park and high-five people. Other fans think it's an animation error. But the fact that it's been discussed and debated for over a decade means it's doing its job either way. It makes you look more carefully at the show. Number 40. Speaking of High Five Ghost, his voice actor is J.G. Quintel himself. So Quintel voices both Mordecai, the show's protagonist, and High Five Ghost, one of the quietest characters. This means that in scenes where Mordecai and High Five Ghost interact, Quintel is literally talking to himself. The tonal difference between the two characters is enormous. Mordecai is confident, Slacker cool, always talking. High Five Ghost barely speaks. They're opposite ends of Quintel's vocal range. And the casting choice means that the show's creator is present in every single scene, either as the lead character or as a background presence. He's always there. The show is literally made of his voice. Number 41. David Ogden Stiers as Mr. Maillard. If that name doesn't ring a bell, he was Major Charles Emerson Winchester III on MASH, one of the most critically acclaimed television shows in history. He was also a prolific voice actor for Disney, performing in Beauty and the Beast, Pocahontas, and Lilo and Stitch. Stiers brought a gravitas to Mr. Maillard that elevated every scene the character appeared in. The old man who runs the park and can never remember Benson's name, that character is voiced by a classically trained actor with a career spanning decades. Stiers first appeared in the Season 2 episode Dizzy, and continued voicing Mr. Maillard until The Ice Tape, which was his final television role before his passing on March 3rd, 2018. That final detail hits hard. The last thing David Ogden Stiers did on television was voice a cranky old park owner on a Cartoon Network show, and he was perfect in it. Number 42. The escalation formula. I know I keep circling back to this, but I think it's the show's most important structural Easter egg. Every episode of regular show follows the same basic pattern. Mundane task leads to supernatural consequence. Mordecai and Rigby try to do something boring. It goes wrong. Things escalate to cosmic proportions. Set up chairs? Demon appears. Return a VHS? Universe threatened. Win a bet? Entire park on fire. And here's the thing. That formula isn't random. Quintel has talked about how the escalation is a metaphor for how small decisions snowball in real life. You procrastinate on one thing, then another thing goes wrong. Then you're behind on everything. Then your boss is yelling at you. Then you feel like the world is ending. The supernatural escalation in regular show is a visual representation of anxiety spiraling. Every episode where Mordecai and Rigby cause cosmic chaos by being lazy is really an episode about the consequences of avoidance. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. And here's a detail about Benson that connects back to what I was saying earlier about the show's dual-track nature. In Season 5, there's an episode called The Thanksgiving Special, where Benson cooks an elaborate Thanksgiving dinner for the park crew. He's not doing it because he has to. He's doing it because he wants to. Benson, the guy who screams at everyone, who threatens to fire people daily, who is consistently portrayed as the stick in the mud, he cooks for his friends. Voluntarily. With care. And the episode doesn't make a huge deal out of it. It doesn't have a big emotional speech about how Benson secretly loves everyone. It just shows him cooking. That's the show's approach to tenderness. It doesn't announce it. It demonstrates it. Actions over words. Cooking over speeches. And if you're paying attention, those small moments tell you everything you need to know about who Benson really is underneath all that anger. I've been going back and forth on whether to include this next one because it's less of a traditional Easter egg and more of a structural observation. But I think it qualifies because it's deliberately hidden. The show's season finales form their own hidden arc across the series. Season 1 ends with a band episode. Season 4 ends with heartbreak. Season 7 ends with a launch into space. And Season 8 ends with the heat death of the universe being stopped by love. If you line up the finales, they trace an escalation curve that mirrors the show's episode-level escalation formula, but on a macro scale. Each season finale is bigger, more emotionally ambitious, and more cosmically significant than the last. The show does at the season level what it does at the episode level. Mundane to cosmic. Only the mundane starting point keeps getting higher. It's escalation of escalation. Fractal storytelling. Number 43. Stake Me Amadeus, Season 4, Episode 37, the Season 4 finale. This is the episode where Mordecai finally tells Margaret how he feels. He takes her to a fancy restaurant. He asks her to be his girlfriend, and she says she can't because she got accepted to her dream university. She cries. He drives her to the airport. The final shot is Mordecai and Rigby sitting on the roof of the house drinking sodas in silence. No music, no joke, just silence. The episode title is a pun on Rock Me Amadeus by Falco, the 1985 Austrian pop hit. But the episode itself is the antithesis of a fun 80s reference. It's a breakup episode. It's devastation. The show used an 80s music reference as the title for its most emotionally crushing moment. That juxtaposition, funny title, and heartbreaking content, that's regular show in a nutshell. Light on top, dark underneath. And while I'm thinking about Stake Me Amadeus, I want to point out that the restaurant itself is one of the show's best sight gags. Stake Me Amadeus is a steak restaurant. The name is a pun on Rock Me Amadeus by Falco. The restaurant is visually designed as an upscale dining establishment with a vaguely Austrian aesthetic, which matches the Falco connection since Falco was Austrian. The owner, Amadeus Martinez, is revealed during the episode, and his existence creates an entire micro-mythology around this restaurant. Someone named Amadeus Martinez opened a steak restaurant and named it after a pun, combining his name with a Falco song. That's a level of background character detail that nobody asked for and nobody needed. But the show provided it anyway. Every location in regular show has this kind of thought behind it. Every sign, every business name, every background detail represents a choice someone on the creative team made deliberately. And those choices accumulate. 244 episodes of deliberate choices layered on top of each other. The show is an archaeological site. Every layer has artifacts worth examining. I should mention something about how regular show handles the concept of winning, because it's related to what happens in Stake Me Amadeus. In most cartoons, the protagonist wins. The problem is solved. The day is saved. Order is restored. Regular show does this too, but it also regularly lets its characters lose. Mordecai loses Margaret. He loses CJ. Rigby loses his dignity regularly. Benson loses his dream career. Pops loses his life. The show isn't afraid of loss. It doesn't protect its characters from consequences, and every loss in the show is permanent. When Margaret leaves, she doesn't come back the next episode as if nothing happened. The show sits in the aftermath. It shows Mordecai being sad. It shows him recovering. It shows the process. And that willingness to let characters lose and to show the real emotional cost of losing is what gives the wins their weight. When Rigby graduates, it means something because he earned it. When Muscle Man gets married, it means something because he worked for it. The victories in regular show are proportional to the losses, and the losses are real. Number 44. Mordecai's love life as a deliberate subversion. Here's something I've never heard anyone else point out, and I've been sitting on this for a while. Most cartoons with a romantic subplot give the protagonist what they want. The guy gets the girl. It's standard. Regular show doesn't do that. Mordecai falls for Margaret. Margaret leaves. He falls for CJ. That falls apart too, spectacularly, in Dumped at the Altar, when the love triangle implodes at Muscle Man's wedding. And then in the finale, during the 25-year time skip, we learn that Mordecai didn't end up with either of them. He married someone we've never met, a bat artist named Steph. The show's entire romantic subplot, years of will they won't they, resolves with Mordecai ending up with a character the audience has never seen before. That's a deliberate choice. Quintel is saying that the person you end up with isn't always the person you spent your 20s obsessing over. Sometimes, your person hasn't even entered your life yet. For a kid's show, that's an astonishingly mature message, and it's buried in the finale's epilogue. Number 45. Merry Christmas, Mordecai, Season 6, Episode 10, aired December 4th, 2014. This is the episode where CJ sees Mordecai and Margaret accidentally kiss at a Christmas party. CJ drives away heartbroken, and here's a detail that's easy to miss. During the party, Rigby is wrapping a Christmas gift for Eileen. It's a brief background moment. Nobody comments on it, but it's one of the earliest visual confirmations that Rigby and Eileen's relationship is developing. The show doesn't announce it. It just shows Rigby doing something thoughtful for Eileen in the background of someone else's emotional crisis. That's real-life relationship energy. Important things happen quietly, while loud things take center stage. And while we're on the subject of small moments carrying enormous weight, I want to talk about how the show handles the passage of time within individual episodes. Most cartoons exist in a kind of eternal present. The characters don't age. The seasons don't change. Every episode resets to the same starting point. Regular show does this too, mostly. It's an episodic show. But within episodes, the show has a remarkable sense of time passing. Morning transitions to afternoon. Afternoon gives way to evening. The sunset shots we talked about, those aren't random. They're temporal markers. The show keeps track of the time of day within an episode, and the lighting changes accordingly. Characters who started a task in the morning are finishing it at dusk. That's a small thing, but it creates a sense of a day lived. A day with a beginning, a middle, and an end. And for a show about growing up and the passage of time, that attention to the daily cycle reinforces the theme at the most granular level. Time passes, even within a single episode, even within a single day. The show never lets you forget. I also want to address how the show uses food. This might seem like a strange thing to focus on, but food appears in regular show constantly. The coffee shop, grilled cheese sandwiches, hot dogs, Benson's premium steaks, the 12-egg omelet, baby duck eggs. Food in regular show is always communal. Characters eat together. They cook for each other. They argue about food, fight over food, bond over food. Food is the show's primary social lubricant. It's how characters connect. And when food goes wrong, When the hot dogs come alive, or the omelet puts Rigby in a coma, it represents social connection gone wrong. Food-based escalation is friendship-based escalation. The two are mapped onto each other throughout the series, and that's another hidden structural pattern that reveals itself only on multiple viewings. The show uses food the way it uses 80s music, as a delivery system for emotional content. Number 46. Rigby and Eileen's secret relationship is one of the best slow burns in animated television. They start as comedy foils. Eileen has a crush on Rigby. Rigby is grossed out. Over seasons, they become friends, then close friends, then, quietly, something more. The show never gives them a big dramatic, "we're dating now" moment. Instead, we find out in Dumped at the Altar that they've been secretly dating and wearing matching bracelets. The whole audience found out at the same time. That's not how television usually works. Usually, the audience sees the relationship develop on screen. Regular show let it happen off-screen, the same way relationships actually develop, privately, without an audience. And then when it's revealed, it feels earned because we saw all the pieces. We just didn't know they'd been assembled. Number 47. Eileen's voice actress is Minty Lewis, who was also a storyboard artist and writer on the show. She's credited as a writer on 30 episodes. So the person drawing and writing the show is also voicing one of its main characters. That's the kind of in-house creative overlap that gives regular show its homemade quality. It feels like a show made by friends. Because it was. Quintel and Marin were friends from CalArts. Lewis was part of the writing staff. The cast and crew aren't separate entities. They're the same people. And that intimacy bleeds into every frame. Number 48. Trucker Hall of Fame. Season 3, Episode 29. Muscle Man's father dies. Full stop. A character dies in a children's cartoon, and it's played completely straight. Muscle Dad was a forklift operator who told his son he was a trucker, so Muscle Man would be proud of him. He died after being mauled because he put a cactus under what he thought was a cop in a bear costume, but was actually a real bear. That death is absurd in the way regular show deaths always are, but the emotional fallout is completely real. Muscle Man grieving his father, learning the truth about his dad's career, that's heavy material. And the episode goes further. Muscle Dad comes back as a ghost to make amends with his son. In regular show, death isn't always permanent, but the emotional impact of loss always is. The ghost reconciliation doesn't undo the grief. It transforms it. That distinction matters. Number 49. The My Mom jokes. Muscle Man's catchphrase, "You know who else likes Thing? My mom," is one of the most recognizable running gags in 2010 animation. But here's the Easter egg inside the gag. There's a Season 2 episode literally called My Mom, where Muscle Man discovers that other people making "my mom" jokes about his actual mother infuriates him. He can dish it, but he can't take it. The show took its most surface-level recurring joke and used it as the basis for an episode about hypocrisy and emotional boundaries. The gag that seems the most disposable becomes the foundation for genuine character work. If that isn't regular show in a nutshell, I don't know what is. And while I'm on the subject of character work disguised as comedy, can we talk about Muscle Man for a second? Because I think Muscle Man might be the most underappreciated character in the entire series. When he first appears, he's obnoxious. He's gross. He makes "my mom" jokes constantly. He's the character you tolerate because the rest of the cast is so good. And then, the show starts peeling back layers, and you realize that Muscle Man is one of the most emotionally complex characters on the show. His father's death in Trucker Hall of Fame is played with complete sincerity. His relationship with Starla, which starts as a punchline, becomes one of the most genuine love stories on Cartoon Network. His proposal, his wedding, his daughter in the time skip. The show took the character most viewers initially dismissed and made him the emotional anchor of some of its best episodes. That's a magic trick. That's Quintel looking at the audience and saying, "You think you know who this character is, but you don't. You're judging him the same way people judge the show itself. Surface level. And you're wrong. Give him time. Give him patience. He'll surprise you." I have a theory about this that I've never heard anyone else bring up. I think Muscle Man is Quintel's commentary on regular show itself. The thing that looks dumb on the outside, but is secretly brilliant. The character everyone underestimates. The joke that turns out to be a thesis. Muscle Man is regular show, walking around in a green body with a mullet, being dismissed by everyone who isn't paying attention. Number 50. We're halfway through, and if you've made it this far, you already know this isn't a light video. So let me use this moment to talk about something that's been on my mind through all of this. Regular show ended on January 16th, 2017. That's over 9 years ago, and it's still being discussed, still being analyzed, still revealing new details to people who go back and rewatch it. That longevity isn't normal for a Cartoon Network cartoon. Most shows from that era are remembered fondly and then moved past. Regular show is remembered fondly and then dug into deeper and deeper. And I think it's because of what we've been talking about tonight. The layers, the Easter eggs. The fact that no matter how many times you watch it, there's always something you missed. That's by design. Quintel built a show that rewards obsessive attention. And here we are, 9 years later, still finding things. I need to sit with that for a second. The halfway mark of a 100-item list. And the takeaway is that the show built things to last. That's not a small thing. In an era of disposable content, of binge and forget streaming culture, regular show was designed for permanence. Not because it was making art for art's sake, although it was, but because Quintel and his team believed in the intelligence of their audience. They believed that viewers, even young viewers, would notice the details, would come back, would dig deeper, and they were right. The show's continued relevance, the depth of its fandom, the fact that people are still making videos about it nearly a decade after it ended, all of that is proof that treating your audience with respect pays dividends. Let me also address something about the show's approach to conflict resolution, because it's hiding an Easter egg in plain sight. Regular show resolves conflicts through escalation. Yes, things get bigger, things explode, but the final resolution, the actual moment where the problem is solved, almost always comes from something simple. A choice, a word, a gesture. Mordecai choosing the right hat saves Rigby. Rigby confessing the truth about the college letter saves the timeline. Pops hugging Auntie Pops saves the universe. The escalation is the obstacle. The resolution is always human scale, always personal, always about choosing to be good, or honest, or brave in a single moment. The show escalates to the cosmic specifically, so it can resolve at the intimate. That's a structural principle hidden inside every single episode. And it's the show's real thesis about how problems get solved. Not through matching the chaos, through being simple when everything around you is complicated. Number 51. The regular show movie, released in 2015, is essentially one long Easter egg for the series. The plot involves time travel, and future Rigby travels back to warn his present self about a catastrophe. But the movie also reveals one of the series' most important secrets. Rigby sabotaged Mordecai's college rejection letter. In high school, Mordecai got into college university. Rigby didn't. Rather than be separated from his best friend, Rigby faked a rejection letter for Mordecai, so they'd both end up working at the park. When this is revealed in the movie, Mordecai is devastated. Years of his life, living in the park, working under Benson, all because his best friend lied to him. The movie takes the show's most fundamental relationship and introduces genuine betrayal, and it doesn't fully resolve. Mordecai and Rigby agree to not let their friendship fall apart the way it did in the alternate future. But the knowledge of what Rigby did hangs over everything that comes after. That's an Easter egg for the entire emotional architecture of the series. Knowing what Rigby did changes how you watch every subsequent episode. Number 52. The movie is packed with Back to the Future references. Time circuits on, the time-traveling vehicle, the concept of a timonado. The visual language of the time travel sequences borrows heavily from the DeLorean effects in Back to the Future. But the movie also references Terminator, with future Mordecai becoming a cybernetic antagonist. Two 80s sci-fi franchises fused into a single regular show narrative. And none of it feels forced, because the show earned the right to make those references over 5 seasons of building its 80s aesthetic. Number 53. The musical choices throughout the series function as a hidden emotional score. Quintel has talked about how the music licensing process began with the staff recording animatics with copyrighted songs as temp tracks. When they could afford the license, those songs stayed. When they couldn't, the in-house composer created something that captured the same emotional frequency. So every licensed song in regular show represents a moment where the production budget lined up with the creative vision. Don't You Forget About Me by Simple Minds plays at the end of Fuzzy Dice. That's the song from The Breakfast Club. It might be the most 80s song that has ever existed, and regular show uses it at a moment of genuine emotional weight. The song isn't just a reference, it's an instruction. Don't forget about this. Don't forget about this show. Don't forget about these characters. The lyrics become a message from the show to the viewer. Number 54. Camping Can Be Cool, Season 3, Episode 5, aired October 17th, 2011. Mordecai, Rigby, Margaret, and Eileen go camping. They encounter a half-human, half-deer creature called the Stagman. The Stagman is voiced by Robert Englund, who, remember, would later voice Auntie Pops. This means Englund appeared in regular show twice, years apart, as two completely different characters. His first appearance is as a horror creature in an early season. His final appearance is as the show's ultimate villain. The casting creates a hidden arc. Englund's presence in the show escalates just like the show itself does. From campfire horror to cosmic threat. That's casting as storytelling. Here's a thing I noticed on my most recent rewatch that I can't stop thinking about. The show's color palette shifts subtly across seasons. The early seasons are brighter. The colors are more saturated. The park looks warmer. As the series progresses, particularly into seasons 6 and 7, the palette cools slightly. The night scenes become more frequent. The shadows deepen. And in season 8, the space setting introduces deep blues and blacks that the show never used before. I don't know if this was a deliberate tonal choice by the art department or a natural evolution of the visual style, but the effect is that the show literally gets darker as it goes on. The visual warmth of the early seasons gives way to something more contemplative, and when you watch the whole series in order, that gradual shift creates an emotional arc that exists purely in the color design. The show is aging in front of your eyes, getting more serious, getting deeper, and the colors are telling you that even if the dialogue isn't. I should also talk about the show's relationship with physical comedy, because it's something regular show does that doesn't get enough credit. The characters in this show get hurt, a lot. They get punched, thrown, crushed, and electrocuted on a regular basis. And the show treats physical comedy with the same dual-track approach it applies to everything else. On the surface, it's slapstick. It's funny. A raccoon gets punched into a wall. Hilarious. But the show also occasionally shows the consequences of that physical comedy. Characters end up in hospitals. Rigby falls into a coma from eating eggs. Mordecai gets genuinely injured, and the show holds on his pain. The line between funny violence and real violence is drawn and redrawn constantly. And that makes the comedy more effective, because you never know when a punch is going to be a joke, and when it's going to have consequences. The unpredictability keeps you engaged. Number 55. The way regular show handles immortality through Skips is one of its most underrated thematic threads. Skips is immortal. He's watched everyone he's ever loved die. Every season, every change at the park, every new hire, and every departure, Skips is the constant. He was there before Mordecai and Rigby arrived. He'll be there after they leave, and the show never lets you forget the weight of that. In Free Cake, Season 1, Episode 5, we learn that Skips has a birthday ritual that he must perform to maintain his immortality. If he doesn't dance to a specific song at a specific time, he dies. The show makes immortality conditional. It's not a gift. It's a responsibility. It's something Skips has to actively maintain, year after year, alone. That's loneliness as a plot mechanic, and it's hidden inside a silly episode about free cake. Number 56. Skips vs. Technology, Season 3, where Skips can't figure out how to use a computer. His friend Tecmo helps him, and the episode turns into a virus-fighting action sequence. But the meta Easter egg here is that Tecmo is actually Samson, Skip's old friend from his mortal days. When Samson became injured, he replaced parts of himself with technology, becoming a cyborg. The show quietly connected Skip's ancient past to the modern world through a character who literally bridges the gap between the old and the new. Skips can't use a computer, but his oldest surviving friend is a cyborg. That irony is never stated outright. It's just there, waiting for you to notice. And the solution to the virus, Mordecai and Rigby opening so many programs that the computer crashes, is based on how actual computers work. Overload the RAM. The show teaches you real tech concepts through cartoon chaos. Number 57. Regular show's approach to death is one of its most distinctive features, and it's something the show smuggled past Cartoon Network's content guidelines repeatedly. Characters die. Permanently. In Over the Top, Death himself, voiced by Julian Holloway in a Cockney accent, makes bets with park workers for their souls. Death as a character recurs throughout the series. He has a son named Thomas, a 300-year-old demon who can secretly talk, voiced by Michael Dorn, Worf from Star Trek: The Next Generation. The casting of Dorn is itself an Easter egg. One of the most recognizable voices in science fiction, voicing a demon child in a cartoon. And Death isn't just a villain. He's a complex character who sometimes helps the park crew and sometimes tries to kill them. He plays bowling. He has family problems. He's death personified, rendered as a working-class British guy with supernatural powers and relatable domestic issues. And here's something about the show's villains that I think constitutes a hidden design philosophy. Regular shows' one-off villains are almost always created by the protagonist's actions. The characters don't encounter evil, they create it. The magical keyboard creates a portal to another dimension because they misuse it. The haunted taxi manifests because Rigby watched a horror movie. The evil hot dogs come alive because Mordecai and Rigby were irresponsible with food. In Regular show, the antagonist is almost always a consequence of the protagonist's choices. Evil isn't something that happens to you. It's something you summon through poor decisions. And that's a worldview that's simultaneously empowering and terrifying. Empowering because it means you have agency. Terrifying because it means you're responsible. Every supernatural crisis in Regular show is, at its core, an accountability crisis. The characters have to clean up a mess they made. And the supernatural element, the wizard, the demon, the giant floating head, that's just the mess wearing a costume. Strip away the spectacle, and every episode is about consequences. Every single one. That's not an observation I've seen anyone else make, and I've been thinking about it for weeks. The show is a 244-episode treatise on the idea that your actions have consequences, and sometimes those consequences have tentacles and laser eyes. Number 58. Meet Your Maker, Season 1, Episode 6. Mordecai and Rigby accidentally burn Benson's premium hot dogs for the park barbecue. They get trapped in a freezer, and the hot dogs come alive and try to eat them as revenge for fallen hot dogs. The hot dog leader is voiced by Tim Curry. Second Tim Curry appearance in the show. The man shows up as a phone villain and a sentient hot dog, and nobody talks about this enough. Tim Curry, one of the greatest character actors of his generation, played two separate absurd villains in a Cartoon Network cartoon. That's not just voice casting. That's a treasure buried in the credits. Number 59. Jinx, Season 2. Rigby gets jinxed and can't talk until someone says his name 3 times. He tries to break the jinx by writing his name on a bathroom mirror, which is a direct reference to the Bloody Mary urban legend. But the ritual goes wrong and summons a mirror monster. To defeat it, they realize they need to say Rigby's name backwards. Ibgir. The episode takes a playground game, jinxing, and escalates it into a supernatural threat. But it also teaches you that words have power, that names matter, that saying someone's name can summon them or save them. For a show about slackers, Regular show has a remarkably consistent interest in the power of language, naming things, speaking things into existence. This theme recurs throughout the series. And one thing I keep returning to when I think about the power of language in this show is how the characters speak to each other. Regular show's dialogue is genuinely naturalistic. Characters interrupt each other. They trail off mid-sentence. They say like and dude and man with the frequency of actual 23-year-olds. They use slang incorrectly. They mispronounce things. And this naturalism exists alongside the supernatural elements, which creates this incredible tonal dissonance where a character will be having the most casual, sloppy, realistic conversation of their life, while a demon materializes behind them. The mundane dialogue grounds the fantastic events. You believe in the escalation because the characters talking through it sound real. They're not delivering exposition. They're not speaking in complete sentences. They're two dudes at a park talking the way two dudes at a park actually talk. And that commitment to linguistic realism, maintained across 244 episodes, is one of the show's most underappreciated achievements. The dialogue was workshopped in group recording sessions. Remember? The actors were in the room together, playing off each other in real time. The words were alive before they were animated. And that liveness, that spontaneity, it's in every conversation the show ever produced. I also want to flag something about how the show handles authority and rebellion, because it's more complex than it appears. Mordecai and Rigby rebel against Benson. That's the surface dynamic. But the show never fully endorses their rebellion. They're wrong to slack off. They're wrong to ignore Benson's instructions. And when their rebellion causes supernatural chaos, the show holds them accountable. They have to fix what they broke. They have to apologize, sometimes explicitly, sometimes through action. The show doesn't lionize its slackers. It loves them, yes. It finds them funny and relatable. But it also consistently shows that their lifestyle has costs. They hurt people. They put people in danger. They cause problems that other people have to solve. And the show's trajectory, from slacking to responsibility, from rebellion to maturity, is a quiet endorsement of the thing they've been rebelling against all along. Not blind obedience to authority, but showing up, doing the work, being someone other people can count on. The show spends 8 seasons letting its characters be irresponsible, and then showing them, gradually, tenderly, that responsibility isn't the enemy, it's the destination. Number 60. The show's title is itself an Easter egg. Regular Show. It's the most ironic title in television history. Nothing about this show is regular. Every episode involves supernatural events, cosmic threats, or reality-bending chaos. The title is a lie that tells the truth. It's regular for Mordecai and Rigby. Their normal is everyone else is insane. And J.G. Quintel has said the title came from the idea that no matter how crazy things get, they always end up back at the park, back at their regular lives. The chaos is temporary. The regularity is permanent. The show is named after the one thing it isn't, which is the one thing it always returns to. That's a philosophical statement disguised as a bad joke. Number 61. The specific way Benson's anger is animated. When Benson gets furious, his gumball machine body turns red and steam comes out of his head. But in some episodes, his rage produces a fiery aura that some fans have compared to the Dark Phoenix from X-Men comics. The Phoenix Saga connection might be intentional, might be coincidental, but the visual language is clear either way. Benson's anger is literally burning. It's consuming him from the inside, and the show chose to make that internal emotional state visible as an external animation effect. You can see Benson's feelings. They're on fire. For a character who spends the entire series trying to maintain control, the fact that his emotions are literally uncontrollable visual events is a quietly devastating detail. And I want to expand on this idea of Benson's anger for a minute, because I don't think most people realize how carefully the show constructs his emotional architecture. Benson isn't just angry. He's specifically angry in the way that people who used to have dreams are angry. He was a prodigy drummer. He played a solo on a 150-piece kit that nobody thought was physically possible. He was on the verge of rock stardom, and then it was taken from him. Not because he wasn't good enough, because his bandmates were jealous, because the people around him couldn't handle his talent. And instead of fighting for his dream, Benson accepted the loss. He took a management job at a park. He put on a tie, metaphorically speaking, and became responsible. And every single day, he manages 2 employees who are living the life he gave up. Mordecai and Rigby are slackers. They avoid work. They pursue pleasure. They do whatever they want. And Benson has to stand there and watch them be free while he's chained to a clipboard. His anger isn't about the chairs not being set up. It's about the drum solo he'll never play again. Every time Benson screams, "You're fired," he's really screaming about the fact that he traded his passion for stability, and he can't go back. That's not a cartoon character. That's a midlife crisis wearing a gumball machine costume. And you know what makes it even more painful? Benson is good at his job. He keeps the park running. He handles every crisis. When supernatural chaos erupts, which is basically every week, Benson is the one who holds things together. He's competent. He's reliable. He's essential. And nobody ever acknowledges it. Mr. Maillard can't remember his name. Mordecai and Rigby see him as an obstacle. The show lets Benson be excellent at something nobody values. And if that doesn't sound like real life to you, you're luckier than most. Number 62. Muscle Man and Starla's relationship is one of the most complete love stories in animated television, and it's hiding inside a show most people think of as a comedy. They've known each other since high school. They went to prom together. In the end of Muscle Man, he proposes. In Dumped at the Altar, they get married. And in the series finale, during the time skip, we see they have a daughter. That's a full life cycle. First date to parenthood. And throughout all of it, Starla tells Muscle Man she doesn't want him to change who he is. The crudest, loudest, most annoying character on the show found someone who loves him exactly as he is. That's not just a relationship. That's a statement about unconditional acceptance. And it's delivered through the character most viewers initially dismiss. That's the trick. The show hides its deepest messages in its most unlikely messengers. Number 63. The Jolly Good Show catchphrase. Pops says this constantly. It's his version of cool or great. But in the context of the series finale, where Pops says Jolly Good Show while watching a tape labeled Regular Show in what appears to be heaven, the phrase transforms. It's no longer just a quirky catchphrase. It's a review. Pops watched the whole series, his whole life, and his verdict is Jolly Good Show. He's critiquing the story of his own existence and giving it approval. It's meta without being smug. It's emotional without being sentimental. It's Pops being Pops one last time. Number 64. The time skip in the finale reveals that after the park crew returns from space, 3 years have passed. Mordecai and Rigby are now in their late 20s. And then the episode jumps forward to their 25-year reunion, making them 57 years old. We see what happened to everyone. Mordecai became a successful artist. Rigby married Eileen and had 2 daughters. They got old. They lived full lives. And during the reunion, they look at a statue of Pops and remember what he sacrificed. This time, Skip is an Easter egg for the show's central theme. Regular Show was always about the fact that time passes, that you can't stay young, that the park years, the slacker years, they end. And the finale doesn't just tell you that. It shows you. It fast forwards past the good years and lands you at the end. And it says, this is what it looks like when the people who goofed off at a park become adults. And it looks good. It looks warm. It looks like it was worth it. Number 65. I need to talk about something most people skip past when discussing the show's references. Regular Show doesn't just reference movies and music. It references specific feelings. The 80s montage isn't a reference to any particular film. It's a reference to how montages make you feel. The synth music isn't a reference to a specific band. It's a reference to the emotional texture of synthesizers. When Regular Show uses an 80s aesthetic, it's not saying, remember this movie. It's saying, remember what it felt like to watch this kind of movie. The reference is emotional, not intellectual. And that's why the show's 80s elements work even for viewers who weren't alive in the 80s. You don't need to know the source material. You just need to feel the feeling. That's an advanced form of referencing that most shows never achieve. And this is something I want to really sit with, because I think it's the most important idea hiding inside Regular Show. The show's use of the 80s as an emotional vocabulary isn't just an aesthetic choice. It's a philosophical statement about how we process feeling. We experience emotions through the culture we grew up with, the songs that were playing when you had your first heartbreak, the movies you watched during sleepovers, the video games you played when you were homesick from school. Those cultural artifacts become emotional shorthand. When Regular Show plays Don't You Forget About Me, It's not just playing a song. It's activating every emotion you've ever associated with that song. It's using shared cultural memory as a delivery system for feeling. And that's why the show works across generations. Even if you've never seen The Breakfast Club, you've heard that song somewhere. You have some emotional connection to it, however faint. And the show taps into that connection and amplifies it. It uses the 80s the way a musician uses a chord progression, not as an original creation, but as a framework that the audience already knows how to feel. That's sophisticated. That's the kind of thing film schools teach. And Quintel learned it at CalArts, and then applied it to a Cartoon Network cartoon about a park, and it worked. It worked beautifully. I actually have a theory about why Regular Show's 80s fixation resonates with people who weren't alive in the 80s, and I think it goes back to the show's central theme of growing up. The 80s, in our cultural memory, represent a kind of pre-internet innocence, a time when culture was consumed communally, through shared physical media, movie theaters, record stores, arcades. Regular Show uses that communal cultural memory as a stand-in for childhood itself. The 80s aren't the 80s in this show. They're the before time, the time when things were simpler, the time before you had to be an adult. And that's universal. Every generation has a before time. Every generation has an era they look back on and think, that's when things made sense. Regular Show just uses the 80s as the specific iteration of that universal feeling. And because the feeling is universal, even viewers born in 2005 can feel it. Number 66. The California King episode, Season 7, Episode 26, is a Labyrinth reference so thorough, it's basically a remake. Rigby trades his trampoline for a bed, and then has to venture into the dump to get it back. The dump becomes a fantastical maze. The episode features a character named Ziggy, named after David Bowie's Ziggy Stardust persona. Ziggy's outfit resembles Bowie's Jareth from Labyrinth. The connection to Bowie goes even deeper in the show's mythology. Skip's friend Gareth has a name that seems to pun on Jareth. Regular Show's reverence for Bowie isn't surface level. It's woven into the fabric of the show across multiple seasons and characters. Number 67. Grilled Cheese Deluxe, Season 1, Episode 7. Mordecai and Rigby need to buy a grilled cheese for Benson and can't be bothered to wait in line, so they pretend to be astronauts. The lies escalate until they're both trying to out-fabricate each other. This early episode establishes one of the show's key dynamics. Mordecai and Rigby's problems are almost always self-inflicted. They create the chaos by trying to avoid the simplest possible task. The grilled cheese was always available. The line was finite. The problem was solved before it started, but they chose the hard way every single time. And the show builds 8 seasons on that choice. Number 68. Regular Show's approach to Rigby's intelligence is more nuanced than people give it credit for. Yes, Rigby is the dumb one. He dropped out of high school. He makes bad decisions, constantly. But the show also shows Rigby as emotionally intelligent in ways Mordecai isn't. Rigby reads people better than Mordecai. He's more honest about his feelings. When Mordecai is stuck in his own head about Margaret or CJ, Rigby cuts through the noise. More Smarter shows that when Rigby gets intellectual intelligence, he becomes insufferable. The chemical doesn't make him better, it makes him worse. The Easter egg is in the episode title itself. More Smarter is grammatically incorrect. It's telling you, right in the title, that the pursuit of being smart, in the traditional sense, is misguided. Rigby's real intelligence was there all along. He just couldn't see it. And here's a thought about Rigby that I don't think gets explored enough. Rigby is the show's most dynamic character, but he's also the show's most deceptive character. Not in a malicious way, in a structural way. The show presents Rigby as the sidekick. He's shorter. He's less competent. He's the comic relief to Mordecai's straight man. And because the show positions him that way visually and narratively, you underestimate him. You think Mordecai is the lead, and technically, he is. His name comes first. He's the Blue Jay. He gets the romantic subplots. But if you track actual character growth across the series, Rigby outpaces Mordecai by a wide margin. Rigby starts as a high school dropout with no ambition, no romantic prospects, and no self-awareness. By the end of the series, he's earned his diploma, married the woman he loves, had children, and become a functional adult. Mordecai's growth is real, but slower, more ambiguous, more uncertain. Rigby's growth is a straight line from rock bottom to fulfillment, and the show hides that trajectory inside his buffoonery. You're laughing at Rigby while he's quietly becoming the most improved character in the series. The sidekick outgrows the lead, and the show never calls attention to it. It just lets it happen. That's the deepest Easter egg of all. The real protagonist isn't who you think it is. I also want to talk about the relationship between Mordecai and Benson, because it undergoes one of the most subtle transformations in the series. In the early seasons, Benson is purely an authority figure. He's the boss. He yells. They disobey. It's a simple dynamic. But as the series progresses, their relationship develops into something more complex. Benson starts to see himself in Mordecai. Mordecai starts to understand why Benson is the way he is. There are moments, particularly in the later seasons, where Benson gives Mordecai genuine advice. Not yelling, not threatening. Actual, compassionate guidance. And Mordecai receives it with actual respect. The boss-employee dynamic evolves into something closer to mentorship. Benson becomes, in his grumpy, gumball machine way, the adult that Mordecai is learning to become. And that transformation is never announced. There's no episode where Benson says, "I believe in you, Mordecai." There's no big speech. It just happens gradually, through accumulated interactions, through the slow accumulation of shared experiences. And by the time the show ends, Benson and Mordecai's relationship is one of mutual respect, built on years of friction. They made each other better by making each other miserable. And that's a more honest depiction of how mentor relationships actually work than any after-school special ever produced. Number 69, The Eileen Plan, Season 7, Episode 16. Rigby learns that Eileen's childhood dream was to marry someone brilliant. This sends him into a spiral. He's not brilliant. He doesn't even have a diploma. So he goes back to high school. At 23, he sits in classrooms with teenagers. He studies. He does the work. And this isn't played for embarrassment humor. The show treats Rigby's decision with genuine respect. He's doing something hard because he wants to be worthy of the person he loves. That's not a joke. That's growth. And the fact that it pays off in Rigby's graduation day special, at the end of Season 7, where Rigby actually graduates, makes it one of the most satisfying character arcs in the series. 5 seasons of setup, 2 seasons of development, 1 graduation. And Eileen is there too, at her own college graduation, on the same day. Their academic paths started in different places and ended at the same moment. If you planned that kind of symmetry in a novel, people would call it elegant. In a cartoon, people just called it a fun episode. Number 70. Rigby's graduation day special is also the episode that launches the park into space. Rigby's graduation is the trigger for Season 8's entire premise. Because while Rigby is giving his graduation speech on Inspire America, a TV show, the park crew is told to push a red button. And when they push it, the park, everyone in it, and Eileen, who happened to be visiting, get launched into space inside a dome. Rigby's personal triumph and the show's biggest status quo change happen simultaneously. His graduation is both a character milestone and a plot catalyst. That's elegant dual-purpose writing. Number 71. Season 8 was promoted as Regular Show in Space, and the entire final season takes place aboard the Park Dome as it drifts through the cosmos. This is the show's most ambitious structural shift. Everything that made Regular Show regular, the park, the coffee shop, the house, it's all still there, but surrounded by the vacuum of space. The familiar becomes alien. And that's a metaphor the show leans into hard. Growing up means your context changes even if you don't. The park is the same park, but it's in space now. You're the same person, but you're an adult now. Same thing, different universe. And this is the thing that gets me about the space season. It's the bravest creative decision the show ever made. Think about it. You have a show that's been running successfully for 7 seasons. It has a formula. That formula works. Audiences love it. Critics respect it. The safe move is to keep doing what you're doing until the network tells you to stop. And instead, Quintel threw the entire show into space. He literally launched the setting into orbit. He destroyed the status quo completely, irrevocably, with no safety net. If the space season didn't work, there was no going back. You can't unlaunch a park into space. And the reason this matters, the reason I keep calling it Brave, is because it mirrors the show's thesis about growing up. At some point, you have to leave the park. You have to leave the comfort zone. You have to go somewhere you've never been and figure it out as you go. The show did what it was always telling its characters to do. It grew up. It left home. It went into the unknown. And it made that choice in its final season, when the stakes were highest and the margin for error was zero. That's conviction. That's a creator who trusts his vision more than he trusts the market. I want to add something about the show's relationship with time itself, because time is one of the most pervasive hidden themes in the series. Regular Show is obsessed with time. Time travel appears in multiple episodes. The movie is about time travel. Characters age. Seasons pass. The finale includes a 25-year time skip, and the show's treatment of time is always tinged with loss. Time in Regular Show moves forward. It doesn't go back. Even when characters travel through time, they return to a present that has changed. The time travel episodes aren't about fixing the past. They're about accepting that the past happened and dealing with the consequences. It's time. A Skips in Time. The movie. All of them end with the characters back in the present, older, wiser, and unable to undo what's been done. That's a worldview embedded in the show's structure. Time is real, it passes, and the only direction is forward. Number 72. One Space Day at a Time, Season 8, Episode 1, aired September 26th, 2016. The park crew wakes up in space and has to figure out how to survive. This episode features a detail that's easy to miss. The dome contains everything that was in the park at the moment it launched, including random visitors and structures. The show accounts for the logistics of what would actually be inside a dome that launched without warning. It's a small thing, but it grounds the absurd premise in practical reality. The chaos feels real because the details feel real. Number 73, the Alpha Dome. In Season 8, Episode 18, the park crew discovers the Alpha Dome, the first dome ever sent to space. This means the park dome isn't unique. There were earlier experiments. The Alpha Dome has been in space for much longer and has developed its own culture and society. The existence of the Alpha Dome recontextualizes everything. The park crew isn't pioneering anything. They're the latest in a series. And the Alpha Dome's state, whatever has become of it after years in space, serves as a warning of what the park crew's future could look like. It's a mirror held up at them from across the void. Number 74. Robert Englund's casting as Auntie Pops is even more loaded when you consider Auntie Pops' full name, Malum Cranus. Malum is Latin for evil or bad. His brother Pops is Mega Cranus, the good counterpart. The show is telling you, through Latinate naming conventions, that these characters are cosmic embodiments of good and evil. They've been fighting for eons. Every time they fight, the universe resets. This has been happening forever. Pop's sacrifice in the finale doesn't just save the universe this one time. It breaks the cycle permanently. A hug breaks a cycle of cosmic violence that has lasted billions of years. And that's the resolution. Not a punch, not a weapon. A hug from the kindest character in the show. Robert Englund, Freddy Krueger himself, is defeated by a hug. That's not just an Easter egg. That's a statement about the power of genuine goodness. And here's one more thing about the finale that I need to mention before we move on. The way the show handles Pop's sacrifice is masterful in its simplicity. Pops doesn't give a big speech. He doesn't explain his plan. He doesn't even say goodbye properly. He just does it. He sees what needs to be done, he does it, and he dies. And the simplicity of that action, the lack of dramatic buildup, the absence of a cinematic farewell, that's what makes it hit so hard. Pops doesn't know he's in a TV show. He doesn't know this is the finale. He just sees his brother suffering, and he responds with love. There's no narrative awareness in his sacrifice. It's pure instinct, pure goodness. And the show trusts the audience to understand the magnitude of what happened without explaining it. They don't cut to a reaction shot of every character crying. They don't play sad music. They show Pops and Auntie Pops flying into the sun, and then they cut to the time skip. The absence of emotional orchestration makes the emotion bigger. It's the same principle as the silence on the rooftop in Stake Me Amadeus. The show trusts that you feel what happened. It doesn't need to tell you how to feel. That trust between show and audience is rare, and it's what elevates Regular Show from a great cartoon to a work of genuine art. Number 75. The reunion scene in the finale. Mordecai and Rigby, now 57 years old, meet at the park for their 25-year reunion. And the detail that gets me is that they're awkward. They're not the same people. Time has passed. They've lived separate lives. Their friendship has aged, and the show lets that awkwardness exist. It doesn't pretend that 25 years apart is nothing. It doesn't give us a perfect reunion where everything is exactly like it used to be. It gives us a real one. Two old friends who love each other, but have become different people. And that's the truest thing the show ever said about friendship. It doesn't stay the same. It changes. It has to. And it's still worth showing up for. I'm going to take a breath here, because that last one always hits me harder than I expect. And I think it's because Regular Show did something that most shows, animated or otherwise, don't have the guts to do. It ended. Definitively. It didn't get canceled and scramble for closure. It told its story and stopped. January 16th, 2017. 244 episodes. 8 seasons. Done. And the ending was earned because every season built toward it. Every character arc resolved. Every theme completed. That's not luck. That's planning. That's a creator who knew the story he wanted to tell and told it. If you're still awake, I appreciate you. Genuinely. We're in the final stretch, and I want to make sure I don't rush through this part, because these last details are some of the ones I care about most. They're the ones that tie everything together. Let me take a brief tangent here. I've been making these long-form videos for a while now, and every time I finish one, I think the next one will be easier. It never is. Regular Show, in particular, has been one of the most research-intensive projects I've done, because the show is so dense with intentional detail that distinguishing Easter eggs from coincidences requires genuine forensic work. For every detail I've included tonight, there were 3 or 4 that I couldn't verify well enough to feel confident about. And I'd rather give you 99 verified facts and 1 well-supported theory than 100 claims that might be wrong. The show deserves that level of care. Quintel and his team put in the work. The least I can do is match their effort. Speaking of effort, I want to talk about something that connects to the show's production philosophy. Regular Show was storyboard driven. That means the episodes weren't written as traditional scripts first. Instead, the storyboard artists would take a basic premise, sometimes just a few sentences, and develop the entire episode visually. The dialogue, the staging, the pacing, all of it was created in the storyboard phase. This is a crucial detail because it means the show's visual storytelling isn't an afterthought. It's the primary mode of creation. The pictures came first. The words followed. And that's why Regular Show's visual comedy is so precise. The timing of a reaction shot, the way a character is positioned in frame to underscore a joke, the background details that tell their own stories. All of that was conceived visually from the start. Number 76. The show's total episode count, 244 episodes, also represents a specific creative philosophy. Each episode is roughly 11 minutes long, with occasional half-hour specials. That's a format that forces economy. Every joke counts. Every scene matters. There's no room for filler in an 11-minute episode. And Quintel used that constraint as a feature, not a bug. The episodes are tight. The pacing is controlled. The escalation works because there's not enough time for it to sag. And when the show does go long, for specials like Exit 9B or Rigby's Graduation Day special, the expanded runtime feels earned because you're used to the shorter format. The normal episodes train you to expect efficiency. The specials give you permission to exhale. Number 77. The coffee shop. Margaret and Eileen work at the coffee shop. It's a recurring location throughout the series. And the coffee shop is drawn and colored to resemble a classic American diner, not a modern Starbucks-style cafe. The booths, the counter, the neon-adjacent signage. It's a deliberate aesthetic choice that places the show's social hub in a timeless, retro-tinged space. Even the coffee shop is an 80s reference. It's not referencing a specific diner from a specific movie. It's referencing the idea of a diner. The feeling of meeting someone for coffee in a place that hasn't changed in 40 years. Regular Show's world feels lived in because every location has this kind of layered intentionality. Number 78. Margaret is a robin. Eileen is a mole. CJ is a cloud person. Mordecai is a blue jay. Rigby is a raccoon. Benson is a gumball machine. Pops is a lollipop. The show populates its world with human-animal hybrids, sentient objects, and supernatural beings, and never explains why. There's no lore reason for Mordecai being a bird. There's no world-building document that explains why gumball machines are sentient. The show simply presents a world where these things coexist and asks you to accept it. And the Easter egg here is the acceptance itself. The show is teaching you, from the very first frame, that different kinds of beings can coexist. That a raccoon and a blue jay can be best friends. That a gumball machine can manage a park. That differences in form don't matter if the feelings are real. It's a quietly radical statement about diversity and acceptance, delivered so casually that you never notice it's being made. Number 79. Do Me a Solid, Season 2, Episode 18. The episode centers on the concept of solids, favors that friends do for each other. Mordecai asks Rigby for increasingly absurd solids, and it escalates to humiliation. The concept of keeping score in friendships, I did this for you, so you owe me that, is treated as both comedy and commentary. The episode shows how transactional thinking can poison relationships. When Rigby finally destroys the videotape of Mordecai's most humiliating solid, he's releasing Mordecai from the debt. He's saying friendship isn't a balance sheet. That's a sophisticated emotional message delivered through a cartoon about embarrassing favors. Number 80. The show's relationship with nostalgia is more complex than people give it credit for. Regular Show isn't blindly nostalgic. It loves the 80s. Yes, it references VHS tapes and arcade games and synth music, but it also acknowledges that the past is gone. Characters who cling to the past suffer. Benson's drumming career is in the past, and his inability to move on causes him pain. Mordecai's relationship with Margaret is in the past, and his obsession with what could have been costs him CJ. Skip's lover is in the past, and he carries that grief forever. The show uses 80s aesthetics as a warm blanket, but it also uses the past as a cautionary tale. Nostalgia is comforting. Living in it is dangerous. That duality is another version of the dual track the show runs on. Beautiful and sad. Warm and warning. Number 81. The Dream Warrior, Season 8, where Anti-Pops makes his debut. Beyond the Robert Englund casting and the Nightmare on Elm Street reference in the title, the episode establishes that Anti-Pops exists in dreams. He attacks through the subconscious. He corrupts from within. That's Freddy Krueger's entire MO, invading dreams and turning them lethal. Regular Show took the most famous dream-based horror villain in cinema and gave him cosmic significance. Anti-Pops isn't just a dream invader. He's the embodiment of universal entropy. He wants to erase everything. And the only counter to him is Pops, the embodiment of innocent good. Freddy Krueger versus a Lollipop Man. And the Lollipop Man wins through love. Let me pause here and talk about Anti-Pops more specifically, because I think his role in the show reveals one of Regular Show's most ambitious structural decisions. Anti-Pops doesn't appear until Season 8. The show's ultimate villain, the being who has been destroying and resetting the universe for billions of years, isn't even mentioned until the final season. For 7 seasons, the show presented itself as an episodic comedy about a park. Villains appeared and were defeated within individual episodes or short arcs. And then, in Season 8, the show pulls back the cosmic curtain and reveals that everything, every escalation, every supernatural event, every reality-bending crisis, all of it was happening in a universe that was on borrowed time. The cycle of Pops and Anti-Pops fighting and resetting the universe had been going on forever. Every episode we watched took place in a universe that was always going to be destroyed, and we didn't know. The show kept that secret for 7 seasons. It let us enjoy the comedy, the relationships, the growth, without telling us that a cosmic bomb was ticking the entire time. And when the reveal comes, it recontextualizes everything. Every warm moment at the park was happening under the shadow of universal annihilation, and the characters didn't know either. They were just living their lives. Just working at a park. Just being regular in a universe that was anything but. That's the final expression of the show's dual-track structure. The surface track, regular life, and the hidden track, cosmic significance, finally merge in Season 8. The two threads that had been running parallel for 7 seasons finally intersect, and the intersection is the finale. That's structurally brilliant, and it's the kind of thing you can only appreciate in retrospect, which is exactly the kind of Easter egg Regular Show specializes in. Number 82. The Park Dome returns to Earth after 3 years in space. 3 years. That's not a weekend trip. The characters aged 3 years in space. When they return to Earth, time has continued without them. People have moved on. The city has changed. And the show acknowledges this disorientation. Coming home from space is like coming home from war, or from college, or from any extended absence. The place is the same. You're not. And that gap between who you were when you left and who you are when you return, that's what growing up feels like. Regular Show's space arc is an extended metaphor for leaving home and coming back different. I'm going to share a personal thing here because I think it's relevant and because these videos are supposed to be personal, right? That's the whole point. I first watched Regular Show during a period of my life where I was, to put it bluntly, not doing much. I was in my early 20s. I was working a job that wasn't going anywhere. I was spending too much time on the internet and not enough time on anything that mattered. And I put on Regular Show because it was there, because Cartoon Network was on, because I wasn't doing anything else. And I remember watching Mordecai and Rigby, these two guys my exact age, doing exactly what I was doing, which was nothing, and feeling seen, not judged, seen. The show didn't tell me I was a failure for not having my life together at 23. It showed me two characters in the same boat and said, look, this is normal. This happens. People your age struggle. People your age avoid the hard things. And that's okay. As long as you don't stay here forever. As long as you keep growing. As long as you're open to the idea that the person you are right now isn't the person you'll always be. That message landed for me in a way that no motivational speech or self-help book ever had, because it came wrapped in a cartoon about a blue jay and a raccoon. It came without judgment. It came without pressure. It just came, and it stuck. I say all that because I think it's connected to why these Easter eggs matter. They matter because the show matters. And the show matters because it was honest. It was honest about what it feels like to be young and lost and surrounded by chaos you created. It was honest about friendship. It was honest about love. It was honest about loss. And it hid all of that honesty inside the most entertaining, the most creative, the most visually inventive cartoon of its generation. The Easter eggs are the proof that the honesty was intentional. They're the evidence that every detail was a choice. And choices made with this much care, this much consistency, this much love, they create something durable, something that lasts, something you can come back to at 2 a.m, 9 years after it ended, and still find something new. Number 83. Mr. Maillard never remembering Benson's name. This is a running gag where Mr. Maillard calls Benson Balcones, Beanteen, Banton, everything but his actual name. On the surface, it's a comedy bit about a forgetful old man, but underneath, it's about the invisibility of middle management. Benson dedicates his life to running this park. He gives everything to the job, and his boss can't even remember his name. The indignity of that, the quiet devastation of being fully committed to something that doesn't care about you back, that's Benson's entire arc in one recurring joke. And the show never breaks from it. Even in emotional moments, Mr. Maillard still gets the name wrong. The joke is the tragedy. They're the same thing. Number 84. Mr. Maillard's backstory with Pops reveals that Maillard found baby Pops in a meteor. He was a meteor fragment salesman, and during an expedition, he discovered an asteroid containing a baby from Lollyland. He adopted the baby, named him Pops because the baby looked old, and bought the park specifically to create a safe, normal environment for his alien son. Everything about the park, the job, the routine, it was all a protective structure built around Pops. The park exists because a father wanted to protect his child. That's the hidden foundation of the entire show. Every episode set in the park is set inside a monument to parental love, and the show doesn't reveal this until season 8. 7 seasons of episodes in a location whose origin story you never knew. That's a long game Easter egg. Number 85. The statue of Pops and the statue of Mr. Maillard in the finale. After the time skip, we see that the park has statues of both Pops and Mr. Maillard. The detail that destroys me is that Mr. Maillard is described as dying just before the 25-year reunion. He lived long enough to see his son honored. He lived long enough to grow old, but he didn't make it to the reunion. And the gang erected his statue next to Pops, father and son, together in bronze, even though they couldn't be together in life. That's a generational story. A father who found a baby in a meteor. A son who sacrificed himself to save the universe. And statues that stand next to each other in a park that was built for love. I think about this more than I probably should. And look, I know I keep saying things like, I think about this more than I probably should, but I mean it. This show has taken up permanent residence in my brain. Not in a fun trivia way, although there's plenty of that. In a genuine, this changed how I see the world way. I watch regular show, and I think about how the things that seem the most ordinary are often the most meaningful. I think about how the people who seem the simplest often have the richest interior lives. I think about how growing up doesn't mean becoming a different person. It means becoming more of who you already are. Mordecai was always an artist. He just didn't know it yet. Rigby was always capable of growth. He just hadn't found a reason yet. Benson was always a leader. He just didn't have people who respected him yet. The characters don't change into new people over 8 seasons. They become themselves. And the show makes you believe that the same thing is true for you. Whatever you are right now, it's not the final version. There's more. There's always more. You just have to stay at the park long enough to find it. I should also mention that the show's treatment of secondary and tertiary characters is unusually generous for a show of its era. Characters who appear in 1 or 2 episodes are given genuine personality. The recurring villains have motivations. Death, the actual Grim Reaper, is portrayed with complexity and sympathy. Even one-off antagonists are treated as people with reasons for what they do, rather than as obstacles to be defeated. This generosity extends to the show's world building. The park exists in a fully realized city, with locations, residents, businesses, and history. The coffee shop, the video store, the mall, the abandoned gym where Death Kwon Do is taught. Each location has its own identity, its own visual language, its own emotional associations. Regular Show built a world, not just a set. And the difference between a world and a set is that a world keeps existing when the camera isn't pointed at it. You believe the coffee shop is open when Mordecai and Rigby aren't there. You believe Benson goes home to an empty apartment when it comes down to it. You believe Skip stands in the park at night, alone, remembering Desdemona. The world breathes. And that breathing is what makes the Easter eggs matter. You're not finding hidden details in a flat image. You're discovering secrets in a living world. Number 86. The show's humor frequently operates on a level of absurdist escalation that's basically an Easter egg for animation fans. A fight about who has to set up chairs becomes a wizard battle. A bet about who can stay awake longer summons a supernatural game show. The escalation pattern is based on classic animation logic, the kind of thing Looney Tunes and early Hanna-Barbera cartoons did, where physical reality bends to serve the joke. But Regular Show adds consequence. In Looney Tunes, Wile E. Coyote falls off a cliff and comes back. In Regular Show, when things escalate, there are real emotional consequences. People get hurt. Relationships change. The escalation matters. And combining classic animation absurdism with genuine emotional stakes is what makes Regular Show feel both familiar and completely new. Number 87. The show features multiple references to professional wrestling. The escalation sequences, with their dramatic music cues and physical impossibility, often borrow the visual language of wrestling. Characters perform moves that belong in a ring. The slow-motion impact moments are shot like wrestling highlights. And this makes sense when you consider Quintel's generation. Kids who grew up in the 80s and 90s watched wrestling as a form of storytelling. The drama, the spectacle, The predetermination disguised as spontaneity. Regular Show imports that energy into its animation. Every fight scene is a little bit of a wrestling match. Choreographed chaos presented as genuine conflict. Number 88. Let me come back to something concrete before we head into the 90s. Mordecai and the Rigbys. Season 1, Episode 12. The Season 1 finale. Mordecai and Rigby form a band. The title is a direct reference to how bands are named in rock music, the Somethings, with the Blue Jay getting top billing because he's the frontman personality. The episode is about the gap between wanting to be cool and actually putting in the work. They want to be rock stars, but can't play instruments. The resolution, involving them having to actually perform, is the show telling you something it will tell you again and again for 8 seasons. There are no shortcuts. Even in a world with magical keyboards and time travel, you eventually have to do the work. You have to show up. You have to try. And sometimes you fail in front of everyone. And that's okay. That's Regular, number 89. The way Regular Show handles silence is criminally underappreciated. In Stake Me Amadeus, after Margaret leaves, Mordecai and Rigby sit on the roof. No music, no dialogue, just 2 friends on a roof. The show holds on that image. It doesn't fill the silence with a joke or a lesson. It just sits there. And that silence says more than any monologue could. Mordecai is heartbroken. Rigby is there. That's it. That's enough. For a show that's usually loud and chaotic, the quiet moments hit like a truck, and they're always earned. The silence only works because the noise came first. And here's something I keep circling back to as we approach the end of this list. Regular Show's legacy isn't just about what it referenced. It's about what it inspired. In the years since the show ended, a generation of animators who grew up watching Quintel's work have entered the industry. The show's influence is visible in the tonal balance of newer cartoons, in the way modern animation handles male emotion, in the expectation that a kid's show can be both hilarious and genuinely moving. Regular Show didn't just exist within the Cartoon Network renaissance. It helped define what came after. And the show itself was influenced by what came before, by CalArts, by The Simpsons, by 80s cinema, by Looney Tunes. There's a lineage here, a chain of creative inheritance. Quintel learned from his predecessors, made something new, and now his successors are learning from him. That's how art works. That's the cycle. And the Easter eggs we've been talking about tonight are the joints in that chain. They're the moments where the past shows up in the present, acknowledged, honored, and transformed into something new. I also want to acknowledge something about the fan community, because the Regular Show fandom is one of the most dedicated communities in animation. They've cataloged every reference, every background detail, every voice actor credit, every censored scene, every deleted line. The wikis for this show are more comprehensive than some encyclopedias, and a lot of what I've shared tonight comes from that collective effort. Individual fans noticing things, documenting them, sharing them with each other. The Easter egg hunt isn't a solo activity, it's communal, and that community is still active, still discovering new things, nearly a decade after the show ended. That says something about the depth of what Quintel and his team created. They built a show with enough layers that people are still digging through it 9 years later. That's not nostalgia. That's durability. Number 90. Close enough. JG. Quintel's follow-up series for HBO Max is essentially a grown-up Regular Show, and it's packed with callbacks. The wallpaper in the gang's kitchen features abstract art of each Regular Show main character. In one episode, Quintel himself appears and recommends Regular Show to a character, while the Regular Show theme plays in the background. He even draws Mordecai and Rigby on a sticky note. The voice of Josh in Close Enough is Quintel, and Josh has the same vocal mannerisms as Mordecai. Bill Salyers, Rigby's voice actor, voices a character called Dog Boy, who is short compared to Josh, mirroring Rigby's height relative to Mordecai. Close Enough doesn't just reference Regular Show, it rhymes with it. It's the same creative voice, older, dealing with different problems, but still fundamentally the same person talking. Number 91. Regular Show was nominated for 6 Primetime Emmy Awards total, winning 1 for Eggcellent. It was also nominated for 7 Annie Awards and 3 British Academy Children's Awards. For a show that started as a college drug trip animation, that's an extraordinary institutional recognition arc. CalArts student film to Emmy winner. And the Emmy-winning episode is the one about a raccoon in a coma in a hat contest based on Indiana Jones. If that trajectory doesn't make you believe in the beautiful absurdity of creative work, nothing will. Number 92. The deleted scene from The Power originally had Rigby winning the magical keyboard, not from a wizard in a bush, but from a cereal company. He sent in 1,000 box tops, and they mailed him a magical keyboard. The final version, where he steals it from a wizard who's relieving himself, is funnier, grosser, and more in keeping with the show's tone. But the cereal box top version reveals something about the early development process. Quintel was experimenting with how absurd the origins of the show's supernatural elements should be. A cereal prize is weird, but plausible. A wizard in a bush is weird and impossible. The show chose impossible, and that choice defined everything that came after. Number 93. Okay, I want to talk about age in this show, because it's one of the most deliberately chosen details in the entire series. The fact that Mordecai and Rigby are 23 years old. This is established in the very first episode. They're not teenagers. They're not kids. They're 23-year-old adults working entry-level jobs at a park. That's a deliberate age choice. 23 is the age where the excuses run out. You can't blame your parents. You can't blame school. You're an adult. And if you're still slacking off at 23, the question isn't, when will you grow up? It's, what are you afraid of? Regular Show answers that question across 8 seasons. Mordecai is afraid of rejection. Rigby is afraid of being inadequate. They slack off because the work is easier than the fear. And the show's escalations are the universe forcing them to confront what they're running from. And that brings me to something I've been thinking about since I started putting this video together. The show's title card. Every episode begins with a title card showing the episode name in a specific font on a simple background. It's functional. It tells you the name of the episode. But across 244 episodes, those title cards create their own visual record, a catalog of every story the show ever told. And the episode names themselves are often Easter eggs. Stake Me Amadeus, Weekend at Benson's, Eggcellent, Terror Tales of the Park. The titles are puns, references, or deliberately misleading descriptions that take on new meaning after you've watched the episode. The title cards are the show's table of contents, and like any good table of contents, they hint at what's inside without giving it away. I've gone through the entire list of episode titles, and there's not a lazy one in the bunch. Every title was chosen. Every title means something. And that level of care, extended to the most basic structural element of the show, tells you everything about the production philosophy behind Regular Show. Number 94. There's a specific kind of shot Regular Show uses that I've never seen any other cartoon attempt. Wide shots of the park at sunset or sunrise, held for 2 or 3 seconds longer than necessary, with no characters in frame, just the park, the sky, the trees. These establishing shots serve no narrative purpose. They don't advance the plot. They don't set up a joke. They just exist, and they give the show a sense of place that's incredibly rare in television animation. You feel like the park is real. You feel like you've been there. And those extra seconds of empty landscape, they're moments of breathing room. For a viewer falling asleep to this show at 2 a.m, those shots are a gift. They're calm between storms. And let me take one more brief tangent about the show's ending, because there's something I realized while researching this video that I think puts the whole series in perspective. Regular Show wasn't canceled. Quintel chose to end it. He had a story to tell, and when the story was done, he stopped. That's incredibly rare in television, animated or otherwise. Most shows run until the network pulls the plug or the ratings drop below the renewal threshold. Regular Show could have continued. It was still popular. It was still profitable. And Quintel walked away. He said, "This is where the story ends. This is where Pops flies into the sun. This is where Mordecai and Rigby grow old. This is the final episode." And then he made Close Enough, a completely different show for a completely different audience, because he had a different story to tell. That creative integrity, the willingness to end something beloved, because the story demanded it, is one of the things that makes Regular Show's legacy so durable. It doesn't have a bad final season. It doesn't have a rushed ending. It doesn't have a whimper. It has a deliberate, planned, emotionally complete conclusion. And that completion makes everything that came before it retroactively better. The early episodes are funnier because you know where they lead. The middle seasons are richer because you know what they're building toward. The finale is devastating because you know what it costs to get there. The ending improves the beginning. The ending improves everything. That's what a finished story does. Number 95. The way the show uses the phrase, "You know what, Mordecai and Rigby?" followed by, "You're fired," from Benson. It's a recurring bit, Benson threatening to fire them. But here's the thing, he never does. Not permanently. No matter how bad things get, no matter how much they destroy, no matter how many times they nearly end the world, Benson always lets them come back. And the show never explains why. But the implication is clear. Benson cares about them. Underneath the anger and the screaming and the red-faced steam, Benson cares. He won't fire them because he can't, because they're his people. And that's the hidden tenderness inside the show's angriest character. Number 96. The production detail that roughly 40 people worked on the regular show floor at Cartoon Network Studios in Burbank, California. Quintel talked about this in an NPR interview. 40 people. That's not a massive operation. For a show that ran 8 seasons and won an Emmy, 40 people is intimate. It's a team small enough to know each other, to eat lunch together, to argue about which 80s song to use in a montage. And that intimacy shows in the work. Regular show feels personal because it was personal. It was 40 people in a building in Burbank making a show about growing up, because they were growing up while they made it. Number 97. The show's DVD releases include commentary on almost every episode, with approximately 40 episodes of commentary featuring multiple layers: storyboard artists, background artists, Quintel, and voice actors. For fans who found these commentaries, they're a goldmine of Easter eggs about the Easter eggs. The creators explain their references. They tell stories about scenes that were cut. They talk about the real experiences that inspired specific jokes. The commentaries are the show talking about itself. And for a show this layered, that meta conversation is endlessly rewarding. Number 98. Let me talk about the specific way the show handles the physical spaces of the park before we get to the final two. The park house, where the characters live, is drawn with a consistency that borders on obsessive. The rooms maintain their layouts across episodes. The placement of furniture is consistent. The vending machine is always in the same spot. The kitchen counter doesn't move. This seems like a basic animation requirement, but in episodic cartoons, background continuity is often treated loosely. Different episodes might change room layouts, move doors, resize windows. Regular show doesn't do that. The house is the house. The park is the park. Every tree, every bench, every path is where it was last time. And that consistency creates a subconscious sense of permanence. You feel like the park is a real place because it behaves like a real place. Things stay where you left them. And when the park finally launches into space in season 8, the disruption hits harder because you know exactly what normal looked like. You know what was lost. The consistency is the setup. The launch is the payoff. 7 seasons of background consistency paying off in one moment of structural rupture. And here's one that most people will never notice. In season 8, during the space arc, the episodes aired from September 26, 2016 to January 16, 2017. The show's final season ran for less than 4 months. After 7 seasons of regular show on Earth, the final season, the one set in space, the one that resolves every character arc and ends the series, lasted 16 weeks. That compressed timeline gives season 8 an urgency that the earlier seasons didn't have. There's no filler. Every episode matters. Every scene counts. The show knew it was ending, and it sprinted to the finish. And if you're watching the whole series for the first time, that shift in pace, from the leisurely early seasons to the breakneck final stretch, mirrors the feeling of life accelerating as you get older. Your 20s feel endless. Your 30s move fast. And your final chapter flies by before you're ready. Number 99. The show's final episode, a regular epic final battle, is structured as a 3-part event. Parts 1 and 2 are called a regular epic final battle. The third part is simply called The Power, the same title as the very first episode. The series begins with The Power and ends with The Power. That's not a coincidence. It's an architectural choice. The first Power was about a magical keyboard that could do anything. The final Power is about the power of love, sacrifice, and friendship. Same word, completely different meaning. The title has evolved the same way the show evolved. And by ending with the same title it started with, the show is telling you, we've been talking about the same thing this entire time. From episode 1 to episode 244, it was always about power. Just not the kind you expected. Number 99.5. I know I said 100, but I have to squeeze this in because it just came to mind, and I think it matters. The show's theme song, that brief, punchy, synthesizer-driven opening that plays at the start of every episode. It's composed by Mark Mothersbaugh of Devo. Yes, that Devo. The Whip It guys. The Energy Dome Hat guys. One of the most iconic bands of the early 80s new wave movement. Mothersbaugh went on to become one of the most prolific composers in film and television, scoring everything from Rugrats to Thor, Ragnarok. And he composed the regular show theme. The show's auditory identity, the first thing you hear every single episode, was created by a founding member of one of the 80s most important bands. For a show that uses the 80s as its emotional vocabulary, having Devo's frontman compose your theme isn't just a production credit. It's an aesthetic declaration. It's the show saying, from the very first note, we are rooted in this era. We belong to this sound. We are this thing. And most viewers just heard a catchy little tune and never thought twice about who made it. And that brings us to number 100, the final Easter egg, the one that's been hiding in plain sight since the very first frame. Remember where we started tonight? Pop's in heaven, watching a tape. The tape says, regular show. He looks at the camera and says, jolly good show, and then it's over. Here's what most people miss about that moment. Pops isn't just watching the show. He's watching us watch the show. He's on the other side of the screen, looking back at us, and he's telling us it was good. The whole thing, the 8 seasons, the 244 episodes, the 80s references, and the heartbreak, and the escalation, and the park, and the baby ducks, and Benson's anger, and Skip's grief, and Rigby's growth, and Mordecai's search for love, and Muscle Man's wedding, and the space arc, and the time Nado, and the cosmic battles, and the hug that saved the universe. All of it. Jolly good show. And here's the thing about Easter eggs. They're hidden. They're meant to be found by people who care enough to look. And the final Easter egg of regular show is that the whole show was an Easter egg. It was a gift hidden inside a Cartoon Network time slot, waiting for the right people to find it. J.G. Quintel started with a student film about 2 guys on acid and ended with a cosmic story about the power of kindness. He hid the meaning inside the mayhem. He put the truth underneath the jokes. And if you looked closely enough, if you cared enough to pay attention, you found it. That's 100. And look, I know I've been going for a while. If you've made it all the way here, you're a different breed. Seriously, thank you. Thank you for caring about this show as much as I do. Thank you for sitting with me through 100 of these things when you could have been doing literally anything else. That means more than you know. And if you're falling asleep right now, that's okay too. That's what this is for. Let the screen dim. Let my voice fade into background noise. Regular show will be here when you wake up. It's been here since 2010. It'll be here for a long time. But before I go, I want to come back to that scene one more time. Pops, wrapping his arms around his evil twin, flying into the sun, choosing love over victory, choosing a hug over a fight, and the universe surviving because of it. I think about that a lot. I think about it when I'm tired, and the world feels heavy, and nothing makes sense. I think about how a Cartoon Network show about 2 slackers at a park told me, in its very last moments, that kindness is the most powerful force in the universe. That you can break a cycle of violence with a hug. That innocence isn't weakness. That the gentlest person in the room might be the one who saves everything. And I think about Pops looking at the camera and saying, jolly good show. And I think, yeah, it was. It really was. Thank you for spending this time with me tonight. If you want more of these, the subscribe button is right there. And I genuinely appreciate every single one of you who sticks around for these deep dives. It makes all the research worth it. And if you can't sleep, well, that's what the next video is for. If you made it here, if you listened to all 100, or if you drifted in and out and caught fragments between dreams, either way, I'm glad you were here. This show means something. It meant something when it aired, and it means something now. And the fact that we can still sit together, you and me, at whatever hour this is, and talk about a cartoon that ended 9 years ago, and find new things in it, and feel things because of it, that tells me it was built to last. Quintel built something permanent out of cartoons and synth music, and my mom jokes. And I don't think we've finished discovering everything he hid in it. Good night, and jolly good show. Good night, everyone. Sleep well.